The year is 1998 and the PlayStation 1 is flying high. 3 years into its generation, it has become the must-have system. Final Fantasy VII was released a year prior and well on its way to becoming the second best-selling game on the console, and January of 1998 saw the release of Resident Evil 2, putting survival horror squarely front and center. In March of 1998, Square decided that they wanted an in on Capcom's pie and released a game that took elements of RPGs, science fiction, survival horror, put it together, and the result was Parasite Eve, a game based on the novel of the same title. It went on to spawn 2 more games, but on this episode, we take a look at this very underrated PS1 gem as it hits its 20th anniversary next on Downloadable Content. Welcome to DLC, and I am Brian, and with me we have Shanna.
Hey.
And we have Ryan.
Hello.
Both of them longtime panelists, both of them making their very first appearance here in Season 8 of DLC, so welcome back. But yes, we're going to be talking about Parasite Eve today, so before we dive into our retrospective, just want to remind everyone that every single episode can be found on our website, dlcpodcast.com. You can check out upcoming recordings, you can send us feedback, give us ideas for future episodes, let us know if you want to be in on an episode. All there, dlcpodcast.com. Every single episode can also be found on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, and Google Play Music. So, all right there, all the ways to get downloadable content into your ears. So yes, Parasite Eve. Now, this is an episode I've been wanting to do for a while because I love this game, and it is so very underrated, I feel. It's, you know, it did sell over 1 million copies, so it did wind up getting the coveted greatest hits designation for the PS1. But this was one of those games that was like quietly slipped under the radar because, as I said in the intro, you know, Final Fantasy VII had come out a year before, and that was just flying high. Resident Evil 2 had just been released, and that put the Resident Evil franchise right on the map. And then we get, you know, what I call Square's answer to Resident Evil, which was Parasite Eve, which, yes, it mashed up elements of RPGs and survival horror and science fiction, and, you know, it is based on the novel, which is also called Parasite Eve. And in fact, the very first game is a sequel to the novel.
Yeah, I did hear that.
And have you read the novel? It has been translated into English, and I do have it.
I personally have not.
Me neither. But it is definitely one of those things that I do eventually want to read because it has been it's very much attributed to Japanese horror, and Japanese horror is one of the more interesting subjects that there is to read because I've seen a few of those in graphic novel forms, and I personally think the artwork for those is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I was very glad that the novel itself was translated into English because I wanted to see and I wanted to read what, you know, Square based this on, and they reference the novel a lot in the game.
Oh, they do?
Yes, they do. You know all the cutscenes where they're talking about the incident that happened in Japan?
Ah.
That's all in the novel, isn't it?
Yeah, that is right out of the novel.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
That comes right out of the novel. It's just like, ha ha, I see what you did there. Good. Oh, before we dive in too much further, just if any of you out there on the internet are listening to this, there are massive spoilers ahead. So just want to lay that blanket statement out there. There's going to be spoilers aplenty. And even though this game is 20 years old, if you haven't played it, I suggest you do. It's on the PlayStation Network. $6, buy it. And then come back to us after you're done playing it. Otherwise, or if you want to be ruined forever, go ahead and keep listening. It's completely up to you. But you have most definitely been warned. Spoiler alert.
Yep, very much.
Spoiler alert. So, but yes, I mean, I read the novel after I finished the first game because in the credits it actually said based on the novel by whatever his name is. You'd think I'd have that in front of me, but I don't.
So does the novel kind of go like more into explanation, like what happened with like with all the mitochondria with all the like monsters and everything like that? Does that go a little bit more into an explanation of like what happened to that?
The novel explains how Eve was created.
Ah, gotcha.
That would be interesting to check out.
Which is referenced in the game. They actually use some of the elements from the novel to set up the characterization of Aya in the game. So, it's mentioned in the game that Aya's mother was in a car accident. And
Ooh.
And the mother didn't make it, and Aya's sister, Maya, because...
Yep, Maya, yep. Mm-hmm.
Maya had an organ that had a kidney transplant, which was given to a character in the game by the name of Melissa Pierce, who is the opera singer at the start of the game. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know about you, but that first cutscene where you have the opera going on, and Square really likes their operas.
I was going to say the same thing.
They really do, because not only with Parasite Eve, but also another game that I well, I don't know if I say recently played, but another game called Nier Automata. Again, it's the same thing. Square has a huge obsession with operas theme stuff, because in that game there's literally an opera part. So I'm just like, okay, what is your obsession with all this?
Yeah, like Shanna, I was waiting for it's like I knew what was going on now because I played this 10 years ago, so I knew what was coming. But all the while, I'm just waiting for the opening notes to the Maria and Draco opera.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, this is just slightly better audio with the warbly opera singing, and I'm like, is she gonna throw a bouquet of roses off the balcony? Like, where's that coming?
I'm waiting for Ultros to fall onto the stage.
Exactly. But the funny thing I was thinking was I'm also in the middle of replaying Final Fantasy IX at the moment, and when I started to watch the opera, and it's the whole like, Father, why won't you let me be with her sort of storyline, I'm like, this is I Want to Be Your Canary, only it's reverse too.
Yes.
It's now the guy who's not supposed to be with the girl because his father says no. So I was just like, oh, this is too funny. I'm like, what is it with Square and these Shakespearean plays?
Yeah.
Although when I was doing the playthrough, well, I haven't actually fully gotten through Parasite Eve. I'm like about 3/4 of the way through. It's like I haven't gotten fully up to certain bosses yet. But as I've been playing through it, I'm just like, because to me, I've noticed there are so many similarities between like some of the things that they do for Parasite Eve and then also the stuff that they did for Resident Evil. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, okay, were these just recycled ideas that were originally going to go into Resident Evil, but in the end got rejected or something like that?
Yeah, that's like Square picked up whatever Capcom rejected and it became that, because in the novel there is none of the creatures or monsters. It is entirely Eve.
Oh. Well, they had to have you fight something during the game. You couldn't have a video game without minions.
Right.
So.
Yes. So, I mean, the novel is much more scientific. I mean, the novel is written by a doctor. So, so.
And with Resident Evil, because as I know very well with stuff, or at least with the new one, Resident Evil Biohazard, is like, I'm thinking to myself, wait, Resident Evil Biohazard has these weird, ugly monsters that were contaminated. Okay, spoiler alert for Biohazard. It has monsters that were made due to a fungal spore. And I was thinking to myself, wait, was Parasite Eve supposed to be like a rejected precursor to Resident Evil Biohazard just because of so many similarities to it? I'm just like, what the hell are you doing, Capcom?
Well, this is I mean, there is no virus or fungus of any kind. We're actually talking about cellular stuff. So mitochondria and the evolutionary abilities therein. And so it's like, oh, no T virus or anything like that. But, but you do have to brush up on your 10th grade biology.
I was going to say,
and in my case too, because I am a huge nerd for it. If you also know stuff about microbiology, which I know a ton about microbiology, you actually kind of understand. Oh, so that's what the hell they're pulling with this. Damn you.
Yeah. Shanna, you were saying?
No, I was just going to say the same thing. I'm like, all right, this is the game that's literally rewarding me for paying attention to biology class. Yeah. I have to know the structures of the cell to understand this game.
Yeah, that'll be a huge turn-off to people now. It's like, I'd say, Parasite Eve, yes, it's an awesome game, but also make sure you brush up on biology. Oh, shit, we had to learn stuff for this. Yeah, I'm afraid so. Damn it.
Well, I mean, it's the only thing that anyone ever remembers out of 10th grade bio is mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Powerhouse of the cell.
And
the nucleus is the hub, really, is the
and then
the brain of the cell.
And then it's like, okay, you can actually get through Parasite Eve mostly just on that.
Yeah, just
on that bit of knowledge. But we start the game. They're going to an opera, and again the opera thing. Then Melissa Pierce is singing, and suddenly spontaneous combustion, and.
That was one of the best and funniest scenes, if you ask me, that when people were just suddenly bursting up in flames.
They're just suddenly bursting in flames, but the thing that actually made me burst out loud laughing is when Aya just elbows her date.
I love that part.
I remember that.
Just like, get the fuck out of here. Doesn't even like give him a gun, just kind of elbows him off the screen.
Well, they have the sound effect. He basically goes, "Oh!"
Yeah.
Like when you knock him out of the way, and you never see that guy again.
That's it. He's done.
I love it.
Never again. It's like that is the least graceful exit, really.
I don't even think they gave him a name. He's literally just called Man.
He does not have a name.
He's so insignificant to the rest of the story. It's just like, okay, we'll give them we'll give them a little nice romantic plot, and then everybody bursts into flames. Okay, we don't care about this character anymore. Let's get into the main plot.
Yeah, it's like I'm looking at the plot summary for Parasite Eve, and it's like, no, he's an NPC with no name at all. He's just man.
Yep.
Like Square didn't even give him the level of importance at all.
And she never talks about him again either. She never says like, oh yeah, well, like I went on a date and it didn't work out. Like I don't think she ever mentions this guy. Like I wonder if that guy's okay.
She doesn't mention the guy, but she does mention like towards like when she's escaping from the sewers, just the whole date thing, because she was a little I would say she was pissed off at Daniel because of like the whole thing that happened, but she was kind of just like after like the reporter kind of stops her after she's getting out of the store. She's kind of just like, yeah, that date was a total bust. Oh, and speaking of the reporter, I love this next part where Aya is going through. She's going through the whole sewers and stuff like that, and then she confronts Eve, and then she has to fight against that mutant alligator, which was I thought that was a kind of meh boss fight in the end, but still interesting to see. Then Aya comes right out of the sewers, and lo and behold, there's a reporter right there trying to be like, "Miss, you are the only survivor of this incident. Can you tell us what was happening and going on through?" Then I was just like, "Oh God, here we go." Then Daniel comes out of the door and BAM!
Punches the reporter, just like, like.
You mean? I love that so much.
That was like, yes.
Like Daniel, okay. Just though beforehand, first of all, what the hell is an alligator doing in the New York City sewer?
Well, that was like a thing for a while in New York, because this game is a love letter to New York in many respects,
yes.
which I love.
Rats.
Yeah, but there was a thing, like a rumor, I guess, going around that there were alligators living in the sewers coming up through people's toilets in New York City.
I think it was back in the early to late 90s that was going on.
Maybe, yeah, somewhere around the 80s and 90s, sometime when like New York still had mystique and intrigue, let's be honest. But but yeah, there was a running thing that was like, oh my God, yeah, there's alligators in the sewers, and they climb up the pipes into people's toilets and into their homes, and like... Yeah, that was a thing for a while.
But, you're finding out the character backstory of Melissa, and you find out that, she is just popping medication left and right because, I'm feeling terrible. I better take some more drugs. And, we've been double cast for the lead role in this opera. And then, mysteriously, the other person dies when their apartment catches fire. And, I better take more drugs. And
well, the thing is, I mean, Melissa's story is actually pretty interesting when you think about it, because the reason why she keeps taking so much medication is because she's been sick. I mean, she had the kidney transplant because she was a sickly girl.
Yep.
And the fact that she's feeling so crappy is why she keeps taking the medication. And she's so, like, just from that little journal entry that we read, she is so, like, she's almost like, what's her name? Natalie Portman in The Black Swan. Like,
yes.
She so wants this role so bad that she's literally just like, I'm just going to take all this medication so I could be, like, the prima diva or whatever of this opera. And it's like, wow, that's pretty deep,
for an antagonist character, yes, that is, and and because she was thinking that she's taking so much medication because she thinks that it's her kidney is being rejected,
right?
And what ultimately, as we find out later on, it's Eve causing this, and the drugs that she's taking, these are immunosuppressants, so sort of a real life parallel. I'm on immunosuppressant medication for Crohn's disease, and it's like you don't take more.
Yeah.
So she pops these pills like M&Ms, and it weakens her immune system to the point where Eve finally assumes control and takes over, and that's when you have the scene where she breaks the piano while mid transformation,
which is pretty cool. I love that scene.
Yeah,
because it's like right in that moment where she breaks the keys. It's like that's the switch. The switch has been flipped. Melissa's gone.
Yeah, Melissa is over at that point, and forgetting in mind, while this scene is going on, the opera house is still burning. like, hello!
Building still on fire in the middle of winter.
Yeah, come on. Hello, this is Christmas Eve, and nice play on words, Square. Eve, Christmas Eve, ha ha ha. Like I see what you did there, and so this becomes your main antagonist throughout the entire game as Eve becomes stronger and more powerful. And, then we get to, You find, Aya is, NYPD, and, apparently nobody wears uniforms in that precinct at all.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
You have Daniel, which is, her kind of like her trusty sidekick in the Lethal Weapon fashion.
I was gonna say, I'm like, the fact that his name is Daniel, I'm like, did they do that on purpose, like Danny Glover?
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
They had to have. I have expected to come out like Riggs. Oh, I'm sorry, Aya. I'm sorry, I got the wrong name. That was my old partner.
That was like the only people who wear uniforms in this NYPD precinct are your gun dealer, Torres, Wayne,
yeah,
and Kathy, who was the kennel.
Right.
Everyone, I'm like, so everyone else just gets and Aya is in like business casual.
She looks more like an investigator, honestly, than a freaking cop, basically.
Yeah, she's a plainclothes cop, I guess.
Well, the game points out that she's a rookie, and I'm like, wow, you're that level of rank already, where you could just walk around in your Friday casual.
She's only supposed to be like 25, right?
Yeah, she's 25.
She's pretty young.
So, but, the game puts the plot nugget in your head. It's like, why is Aya the only one that survived the fire? And, oh, Square, you definitely did the thing with the green glowy eyes for Melissa and Aya, so obviously there's a connection there. And who is this little girl that just appears and then fades? And what's with the flashbacks to the hospital?
Oh, God.
I mean, they weren't subtle, but that's okay.
No,
it's a short game.
The references to the many Japanese horror themes there is not so subtle either.
Yeah, so we get the whole Daniel punching the reporter out. Yep, that's
one of the best scenes.
And also, going back to the police station, there's some dialogue between Daniel and Aya, and I'm like, are there no cars on this street?
Oh, there were no cars on any of those streets.
Any street. I'm like, this is a city with a population of 8 million people. How is a police car going down any street in Manhattan at that speed?
It's like I was expecting to see some taxis. They're just beeping their horns at.
I don't see a single messenger bike like riding by in front of them the minute they hit a stoplight. I mean,
yeah, it's like Daniel, how many accidents and people are you running over that you're just leaving in your wake? Just like whatever.
Well, that's the thing that cracks me up is there is one cutscene, I forget when it is, but there is one where like Daniel speeds out of the station in the car, and I'm like, there's not a single car on the road.
Yeah.
Like I just stopped. I'm like, that doesn't happen. I work in New York, and I hear sirens literally stuck on the street. I'm like, I really hope nothing ever happens to me in New York because the ambulance wouldn't get to me. That's what New York is.
Yeah. So
yeah, they Square Enix, game logic.
Yeah. So, the game is split up into 6 chapters, so the game takes place over 6 days. So, you had the opera, that was Christmas Eve. Now we're on day 2, which is Christmas Day. So you find out that, we have a scientist over at the American Museum of Natural History, and you meet Dr. Heinz Clamp. Hans, not Heinz.
Hans.
Dr. Hans. And if this game was voice acted, I'm like, okay, your name is Hans. Why are you not being voiced by Alan Rickman?
Could you imagine if this game was voice acted? Because they definitely put the inflections in the text.
Yes.
I mean, it's like Daniel's got a little bit of a Barrett thing going on where he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I have to take a deep breath and I'm like, all right, I know. But it was 1998. Like, they didn't know how to treat our folks back then. Quite like they were getting there, but they still gave us that voice.
Yeah, they did, and I'm sure, I'm sure, I felt the same as well. But Shanna, it's like, oh, yep, here we go, Square with their token black thing again.
Yeah, I know. But the thing that drives me crazy, or that cracks me up, is I'm like, I can sit here and play this game and Final Fantasy VII and overlook it, but a game that came out so much later, 13, I'm like, I can't handle this. It's like, you turned it up. What happened?
Yeah,
like, this is worse. But anyways.
We do speak proper grammatical English, you Japanese. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Let's break free of the stereotypical speech here.
Like, stop it, man.
Really? Yeah, you are capable of syntax. Anyway. So, Dr. Hans Clamp, and I'm like, oh, here we go. You've put in a character that is very obviously very German, and
like they're just screaming, "Oh crap, here we go!"
Yeah, right. By this point, my brain is just screaming, "Oh, Japan," over and over.
Yeah, I know. It's like. Of course, he's like the one who we're worried about. I'm like, again, the German is kind of like the shifty bad guy here. And it's like,
it's kind of like, oh, there is no homage to World War II in this at all. None at all. Yeah, bullshit.
No, not a bit.
It's like, oh no, here we go. A German character talking about genetics and
experimentation and that. Oh yeah, no, we're not referencing any World War II.
It's a bit on the nose. Yeah.
So, and Hans, Dr. Clamp, very uptight, but Aya recognizes him. So again, plot nugget. It's like, I recognize your face, but I don't know why. And but he's a very, very uptight, very angry person. And
is it sad that I could honestly, if he was like voice acted, I could honestly just hear him screaming so angrily in German at like stuff that's going on there and stuff like that. I'd be like, oh god, yep, here we go.
Like just wait for I know nothing. And so you also find out that there is going to be a concert in Central Park, and Melissa Pierce is going to be the one singing at it. And
that doesn't give off any red flags. No, not at all.
So I'm going, wait a minute. The opera that she was just in the night before, the one that had the spontaneous combustion and the fire damage to the performing venue. You mean she's going to be performing the very next evening in Central Park?
And she's got a packed house. Like, nobody read the newspaper and was like, maybe we ought to cancel. I mean, it's Central Park. I can't imagine that you'd have, typically you don't have to pay for tickets and things like that. You could probably just say, I'm not going.
And here we get introduced to Daniel's son, Ben. And you find out that Ben's parents are divorced, but, he wants to spend some time with his parents. So he's like, yeah, come on, dad and mom, come to the park. And Daniel says, I can't because I'm busy. Ben throws a tantrum. So it's Ben and his mother, which you find out named Lorraine. They go to the park. And again, the singer was just in the thing the night before. Did none of you read the Post? Or the New York Times or the Daily News? I'm sure somebody would have had a 900-point font headline, about spontaneous human combustion. But no, everyone wants, it's Christmas. That's okay. Combustion happens all the time. And so you go to...
Yeah, and then once you get to Central Park, you find out, combustion is not going to happen. No, it's something 10 times, it's something it's something grosser than combustion.
Yeah, well, it's like you get there, and an immediate red flag. Daniel tries to go into the park with Aya, but his arm catches on fire.
That part was kind of awesome. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
His arm catches on fire, so it's like, as soon as you cross the threshold, I'm like, what? Does Melissa have like this invisible field around it? Yes, she does, apparently, because I can be like, ha 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 ha, your mitochondria sucks, Daniel, and walks right in.
Your genes are inferior to mine.
Yeah, just walks in like she owns the place. We get to Central Park. There's another concert, but Melissa has already transformed into Eve at this point, so she no longer looks like a regular human. But that doesn't stop a packed Central Park from watching this, and so she starts singing, and I'm like, oh, here we go with the opera again.
Yay.
They're probably thinking, wow, those special effects are great.
It is amazing. Just like, how can she float in the... Those are some nice wires that... how is she floating up there? What... Never mind the horns out of her head and just anything like... Well, prosthetics. They're just prosthetics. We're good.
They're all prosthetics. It's just a costume. It's all prosthetics. It's just to add to the flair of a theater.
Yes. And I love music, and I can be rendered an emotional puddle of goo when I hear a good song, a beautiful orchestra or a singing voice. Then this happened. Then then the game takes this one step further and reduces the entire audience to actual goo.
Talk about becoming an emotional mess, literally.
Like, oh, we're not on fire. Everyone's just bleh, except for the kid. The kid.
Oh yeah, he's fine.
The kid escapes unscathed. So, what about his mitochondria?
That is a good point. I never thought about that.
That was the first thing I thought. I'm like, wait a minute. Well, I mean, the game says that he felt sick, so he left the concert. But again, why isn't Mommy going after him?
Right.
But again, minor details. It's New York City. You can leave your kid, unattended. That's fine. Fine. Dad's a cop.
Yep.
Dad's a cop. My dad can beat up your dad. I get it. But anyway, Lorraine and the rest of the audience is turned to just a big pile of goo because they're just so overwhelmed at this beautiful singing that they lose everything. And then we get probably one of my favorite boss battles in the game. Because while you're getting exposition while you're trying to fight Eve. Oh, and by the way, your horse is on fire. You are on a burning horse ride. Now, I'm like, if this was Halloween, this would be amazing.
Well, it's another great New York thing. I mean, that's one thing you have to give this game is it is rich in New York things.
Yes.
So you go to Central Park and you see those horse-drawn carriages everywhere. They're literally lined up along the park. It's one of the attractions. So yeah, you get in she's like, "Oh, come on in, join me for a cart ride." And you get in the cart, and that horse just goes up in flames and just takes off, and it's just like, oh, okay. This is not your typical nice Central Park carriage ride.
It's meanwhile, what you don't see off camera is Vince Clortho from Ghostbusters. Talking to another cab driver who has not been reduced to goo, screaming, "You will perish in flames." Meanwhile, this horse is actually on fire, and oh, by the way, you're in a boss battle.
Yeah.
I think that they did for Parasite Eve. They said it in the wrong season. It definitely should have been a Halloween thing instead of a Christmas thing.
Like Haunted Hayride. This would have been perfect, but whatever. It's cold. Yeah. It's cold. The horse probably needs to be warmed up, and that's probably the quickest way to do it. So we get this battle. We get some more exposition about the mitochondria and the connection that these two characters have. But the horse finally realizes that it can't keep this up. the cart falls over, Aya is thrown from it, and we get introduced to the nerd.
I love the nerd in this game. He's adorable.
I do. Kunihiko Maeda, and you're in this apartment, this very, very trashy apartment where your only source of heat is coming from a barrel in the middle of the apartment. Apparently this is in Soho.
I don't know what was Soho like in the 90s? I mean, so much of New York has been gentrified at this point.
Yes.
Was Soho a dump in 1998? I don't remember.
I don't know. I mean, I was in 8th grade. I wasn't going to New York City.
Oh, same here.
According to sources, Soho was a place that had many lofts that had artists and art galleries. So the starving artist trope came from that area, I'm assuming.
Rent. Gotcha.
Yep.
Basically, but Io has some more flashbacks. There's the good doctor, and you wake up, and Aya is just in some random dude's apartment.
Not creepy at all.
Not creepy at all. And apparently Daniel knows. Daniel knows where Aya is, and makes an appearance, and he introduces himself, and the nerd trope with Maeda is just so on point.
It is adorable, though.
Like, he does everything except the nosebleed because he sees the hotness that is Aya. Just so, but his entry scene, no, he's not. It's later on. When the New York City is given the order to evacuate. And I'm just going, that's very convenient, Square. Now you don't have to render all those cars because everyone's getting the hell out.
Okay, there was one line that came up at some point that just I was cracking up. And I think it was one of the points where they were meeting with the police chief.
Okay.
And he said I think it was when they were talking about evacuating the city. He's like, oh, well, it shouldn't be so bad. Most of the people are out of the city for Christmas anyway.
Yes!
And I literally just sat there and I went, ha! Because, okay, again, I work in New York. I see this. Manhattan has more people in the city.
Yeah.
During the holidays between Rockefeller and the Christmas lighting and the Radio City show and everyone who wants to come in and shop and, let's bring our kids to the city. So New York is madness during Christmas time.
I'm like, New York City is...
Can attest, yes it is.
New York City, 8 million people normally, but around the holidays, it's like, what do you mean most people have left? Japan, do you not know how New York City works?
I know.
Most people have already left the city, yet that doesn't stop later on in the game showing a cutscene of like bumper-to-bumper traffic on one of the major bridges. So, okay, most of the city has evacuated my ass. That's just normal rush hour.
That's just the GW on a Thursday night, man.
Yeah! It's just, ugh. So, you move into day 3. Aya's in this apartment in Soho with Daniel and Maeda, and then here comes Maeda with the additional science. And this is the first major connection to the novel, where Maeda is describing that there was a scientist in Japan. There was a scientist that tried to culture the cells of his wife after she was involved in a car accident, and the mitochondria in her cells took over her body. So, in doing so, these liver cells that were taken from this scientist's dead wife had the evolved mitochondria and would become Eve. So, that is your first throwback to the novel right there.
Right.
So, Maeda thinks that Eve, now here in New York, may be trying to give birth to an ultimate being again. Because it happens in the novel. So, now you got Aya, Daniel, and Maeda now going back to the museum, and
Which there is an Easter egg on the Natural History Museum.
Is there? What is it?
When you zoom in, or when you go there on the map, like when you're going between the different areas on the map, when it zooms in on the museum, there's a little like poster hanging from the top of it, and it's a chocobo. It's a flag with a chocobo on it.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. It is square.
I'll have to go. Actually have to go to the actual Museum of Natural History and see if they've got a chocobo exhibit.
I wish. I don't think it's actually there.
I know. I didn't actually notice that Easter egg, so good on you. But, they actually go to the museum to see if they can get into the doctor's lab, not knowing that Dr. Clamp never actually evacuated the city.
Right.
So there's some more dialogue, and you get some cutscenes because Maeda does a little experiment so he can look at Aya's cells under the microscope, and you see the mitochondria. Ooh.
Hey man, They're like, we can do it. We got the cutscenes. We have the technology.
We do. We're just like,
We have the technology to do this.
We have the technology. Let's try to make this not look like Fantastic Voyage, and go from there. So the doctor breaks. Like, what are you doing in my lab? And it's like, what are you doing still in the city?
It's basically a DD, get out of my room sort of situation when you really think about it, the way he comes in.
Also, time out. New York City's been given an evacuation order. Why did that apparently give the NYPD license to just break into a gun shop and a pharmacy in Soho?
I love the just absolute freedom of the cops in this game. They're like, oh well, I can't get into this weapon shop. I'm just gonna shoot out the window.
Yeah,
I made a door.
Yeah, I'm just like, and I posted this on Facebook. Like, really? No one's in the city. Oh, we need to get weapons. And even Aya's like, Daniel, don't. And he's like, sorry, Aya. We have to, and just shoots the door. I'm like,
those pharmacists are going to come back at some point, right?
I'm like,
say, what happened to my store?
Yeah, you're going to be like, okay. And the gun shop owner's going to be like, what the fuck? Not knowing that it was the fucking police that broke in and just helped themselves. Like, hey!
And what was the line that was like at the beginning when Aya first went to get like her weapons modified? That who was it? Was it Wayne? I forget who the other one was.
Oh, Torres.
The best line, and now that you mention it, is just like, oh, the irony. Torres goes, remember, cops only use guns only to defend themselves. They don't let guns use them.
Whereas
the irony.
Whereas Daniel's just like, I'm gonna help myself, and all right, fine. Breaking and entering, that's the NYPD way, apparently. So
no knock entering.
Yeah, just like, oh, we're cops, we can do whatever. You're not above the law, idiots. But whatever. Back to the museum. You angry doctor, and again, the doctor kicks them out because, he answers some questions, but again, it's very, uptight and so, all right, fine. Go back to the police station. And the police station's in shambles. And like, oh, well, somebody must have attacked. Wink.
Wink, wink, wink.
I wonder who.
You wonder who, and it's like, okay, we've got the monsters again, and meanwhile, Ben is chasing down one of the dogs, Shiva.
Oh my god.
Wow.
The minute that, because they make it clear, like, because if you go around and you explore the police station, you see that there's the police dogs in there, there's canines, and I was just like, this is going to lead to something. And then all of a sudden there's this big scene where Ben comes in and he's just like, nice doggy. And the guy's like, I think he likes you. And I was like, no, this is not going to end well.
And lo and behold, it doesn't. But again, this is not a thing with this game. This is the thing with RPGs in general. It's like, this is like, oh, a very bad thing is happening, but take all the time you need to explore.
Yeah.
Take all the time you need to explore. Never mind that a dog is mutating into Kerberos, right there. Just, no, explore. Go. You have fun. Enjoy. And, finally you get to the 3rd floor and, oh, nice doggy isn't so nice anymore. And Ben's like, it hurt Uncle Baker. And Uncle? I mean, yes, Daniel and Baker have known each other for many, 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 many years. But Uncle Baker, he's like, Uncle Baker is hurt. And I'm like, no, he's actually just a flesh wound. He's fine. He's standing upright and conversing. Whatever, you put the dog down.
Aww.
I know.
You do indeed put the dog down.
You do have to put the dog down, and oh, by the way, Torres is killed.
Yeah.
And Wayne's just like, you fool, if we had guns!
Yeah, it definitely was one of those moments where it's like, oh great, the pacifist just died.
Yeah, oh great, now you have, NRA wannabe. Yes, I said it. Yeah, you have the pacifist dies, and, the NRA gun nut police officer takes over. But you find out why Torres was so adamant about using guns as little as possible, and you find out that, he accidentally shot and killed his daughter.
Right.
And, at that point, he just takes pretty much a vow never to shoot a gun again unless he has to. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of like the saddest moment in the entire game.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
And that's one thing you have to hand it to this game. I mean, it's not very long, but they put a lot of storyline in it, and it doesn't feel overly packed, but it makes the world feel a little bit more whole. Like the fact that you do have there is some backstory with Daniel and Chief Baker, and there's little pieces that all kind of make all the characters have a little bit more motivation, and you understand them a little more rather than just having a bunch of people around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, in this game, Square actually made up a pretty decent attempt to give its NPCs, with the exception of the unnamed guy at the start of the game, a bit of personality and, some story to make them, feel a bit more personal, a little bit of an emotional attachment. You actually feel for a little bit. You feel bad that, you get a bit of Torres' backstory about why he's so adamant about not using guns, and it's like, oh, well, that sucks.
And Torres could have easily just been a blank NPC, because really all he's there for is to tune up your gun and to sort of hold your equipment. They didn't need to give him a story, but it's cool that they did.
It's cool that they did, and even then, you find out, and even NRA wannabe, even tones down a little bit. It's just like, oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
He didn't do the, ha-ha, he's gone, now I can own all of these, ha. Second Amendment, fuck yeah. And, so, now, all the while, this game is moving pretty quickly. It's like, now you've gotten halfway through, you've gone through the first 3 days, and, now on the 4th day, it's, you go explore a hospital, St. Francis Hospital, and you go, oh, I has been having memories in a hospital setting. I wonder what's gonna happen here. But the reason why you're visiting the hospital is Maeda thinks that Eve is going to try to get sperm out of the sperm bank in the hospital to use for the ultimate being. Which, again, another throwback to the novel, where the Eve persona in the novel is, she's trying to give birth to this creature, and she needs sperm to do it. However, in the novel, she doesn't go to a sperm bank. She takes on the form of the scientist's dead wife and rapes him.
Oh, wow.
And rapes him for it, yeah. So, obviously you can't do that in a mass market video game, so...
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
So, okay, sperm bank in a hospital, that's pretty innocuous. And, okay, fine. It advances the story just as well. Without all of the horrible, visceral emotions that come with rape.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, that's not a joking matter there. So, when you are at the hospital, though, then a lot of what the game has been leading up to this point come together. You find Aya's memory comes back a bit more, and she realizes that, oh, this was the doctor that did a transplant took Maya's kidney out and gave it to Melissa, and it's like, oh, and you find out, why does this hospital have notes on my sister? And who was the doctor Clamp, and
Yeah, Clamp.
Dr. Clamp has been playing the long game here.
But he was an intern, I believe, right?
He was.
I think they said, he was, because he's like, oh, this intern came in and he started to work on us. And then, you see him walk in with the white lab coat, and it's like, you can hear the soap opera organs as he walks in.
Yes. Yes, you absolutely can. It's like, oh, it's General Hospital. But meanwhile, I'm playing this game through for the second time, and I'm going, wait a minute. They let him become a doctor? There is so much ethically wrong here. How did he get to this point? But, whatever, Japan. And,
Yep. Oh, Japan.
And, the long and the short of it is that, and you find out here as well that Eve has a bit of a nasty streak. It's just, when you get to the hospital, again, Maeda can't enter the hospital, otherwise he's gonna burst into flame. But he keeps giving Eve these good luck charms.
Oh my god, I got so annoyed with those good luck charms.
He keeps giving Eve these good luck charms, these will protect you. And, you wind up with, 3 or 4 of these over the course of the game, and spoiler alert, they do nothing.
And on top of that, you only have so much inventory space in this game.
Yeah.
So I'm just there's one less medicine I can pick up. Thanks. I don't want to get rid of it. It seems like a key item, but yeah.
But no, actually, they do nothing. They're just there. They do not do anything for your defense or any of Aya's stats. It just takes up an item slot. And that was just annoying because here, take this item. Great, I don't have any way of getting rid of this until I go back to the police station. Thank you very much.
Unless you drop it in one of the boxes. Or can you not drop it in a box?
I don't know, actually. I'll have to check that. But
I never tried that. Yeah, I never swapped it out for a medicine or anything like that.
I don't think you can drop key items in boxes.
I don't think so.
I know you can get rid of them. You can put them in storage at the police station, but I don't think you can do that in a box.
Yeah.
But so Eve's got a bit of a nasty streak because once Aya gets in the first elevator. Eve breaks the cable and Aya drops a floor, but she then turns the power out, so you have to do some navigating in the basement to restore power, and Eve's just enjoy. And I'm oh. Ooh.
Well. She's got some sass to her.
Oh, you slimy bitch. All right. We're gonna play this game. All right.
I think she even has like one of those like lines where I think it's when you run to the stairs and they collapse and she says like going anywhere or something, like a classic silly villain line.
Uh-huh. Like suddenly Eve has become cartoonishly evil.
Yeah.
Like if she had a snidely Whiplash mustache, she'd just like be like a twirling mustache moment, like, yeah, you see?
Next I shall tie you to the train tracks.
Haha! And, you go through this, and again, you see Maya again, just, guiding the way, and then fades into nothing. But the hospital is really elaborate. It's like, oh, I have to turn off the liquid nitrogen valve, and...
Yeah, that, you kind of don't want to freeze to death with that.
Like I have to turn off the liquid nitrogen because that'll turn off the coolant to the sperm bank, and the sperm will be ruined, and Eve can't get so... Haha! But, as always, you are one step behind in this game.
Well, isn't there... I'm trying to remember. I think when the power goes out in the hospital... Because it's kind of fun. You have a little bit of a, I guess, Zelda-esque. You have to find all the pieces and... like find all the fuses and all that and then put it all together. But I think if you don't turn the power off, like turn the switch off before you put the fuses in, I get electrocuted and it's an instant game over. I'm pretty sure I did that the first time I played the game where I was like, what?
You have to put you have to do that in the correct order, otherwise you will be zapped. Like fuses first, then reconnect the wire.
Exactly, that's what it is. Yeah.
If you do that in the wrong order, you will be zapped.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of the very few places in the game where you could get an immediate game over. Like, you just fried yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, understandable, but very annoying nonetheless.
But it's crazy because I don't recall that there's anywhere. Usually games will give you a hint towards that, like, hey, here's a note from the electrician. Oh, it says make sure that you don't put the fuses in before you connect the wire or something like that.
Nope.
I don't remember there being any warning.
Nope.
Like, you just kind of had to be smart and think to yourself, how does electricity work?
Yep. This wasn't one of those walk you through the puzzle. This was, think common sense. What do you do first?
Right.
But whatever. Ultimately, though, all of your searching and trying to stop Eve from getting the special sperm come to naught. You get to the top of the hospital, and you have a boss battle in the form of a giant spider. Because, sure.
Why not?
Of course, there's a giant spider sitting on top of the hospital. You beat that, it falls through the floor, bunk, through the roof. And another scene with Aya. Now, by this point, the U.S. Navy has been called in.
Right.
And you get a cutscene with some jets, and you see the pilots really having fun with the fact that New York City is evacuated.
The Air Force comes in, yeah.
And, you see, yeah! And weird. You actually see, they fly so low that they cause, a couple of accidents with taxi cabs. And I'm like, wait a minute. I thought the city was supposed to be evacuated.
Except for the cabbies. The cabbies remain.
Yeah. Gaining no money because everyone's evacuated now. So let's see. You have the NYPD taking free reign. You have the U.S. Navy and the Air Force going, fuck yeah, this is our playground now, flying way too low. I'm like, oh boy. Just never, ever, no. Just no. But, Eve then just kind of looks at one of the fighter pilots and he becomes goo. Because that's the level of power she has, and it causes another fighter jet to crash into the one that is crashing.
Yeah.
And here's your another moment where you have an instant game over, because that fighter jet is going to crash into the hospital. And you can actually hear the sound of the jet getting louder as you are trying to get off the roof. Because the game only gives you about 30 seconds to get off the roof, and you cannot go back the way you came.
Yeah.
I made that mistake the first time I played this game. I tried going back, and I'm like, where the hell I can't... And, then I saw where I had to get off, but I was, 2 seconds too late. I was about to jump off the roof, and then it cut to the cutscene where the fighter jet crashes into Aya, and, game over.
And again, there was no hints or clues. It was just Aya saying, I have to go.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, Aya basically said, that fighter jet's getting closer, I need to get off the roof.
Right, and that's all you get.
Yeah, you don't get, you don't get a timer or anything like that. You just hear the jet, the sound effect getting louder and louder and louder, and then it's like, oh, shit. And then followed by the realization of, oh, fuck, I gotta do that boss battle again.
That's the worst. There is no saving right after that or anything.
No.
And again, it's not like there's ever a point where you are searching a room in the hospital and there's a thing on the desk that says, oh, by the way, Dr. Such and Such, don't forget there's an exit on this side of the roof in case you ever need it. Because usually games always throw that kind of stuff in there, but you just had to figure it out.
This was back
after the adrenaline of beating that spider.
Yeah, this is back in the day when, games were games. And we didn't need no stinking hand-holding. We figured things out ourselves, and we died a billion times doing it.
Trial and error is as many of the old school gamers go, trial and error is the best way to figure out how to play a game.
Also, if you guys remember, in the hospital, near the boss, there's this little cut where Aya looks out a window and sees a very glowing top of the Chrysler building.
Yep.
And obviously the top of a building is glowing. That usually is an indication of, hey, important.
Yeah.
Am I going there later? Haha. But, that's the end of day 4, and I am going to stop the first half here. We have gone an hour. And, we're already 2/3 of the way through the game. And if you own the physical discs, you're going, okay, the game takes place over 6 days. They tell you that in the beginning. Why is there a second disc?
The good old days.
Yeah, the good old days, indeed. So, all right, we will cut to break here. In the meantime, you will have some music. We'll definitely be talking about the music because one of my favorite composers wrote the score for it. So, you'll get some of that. We will cut to break. We will be sure we will not be piles of goo when we return. Promise.
I can't promise that.
Yeah, true.
All right. You might have just me. The other two might be sludge. So, I can't promise you that, but I can promise you that we will have a second half. So you're listening to our 20th anniversary retrospective of Parasite Eve here on DLC. We'll be back. Welcome back to DLC, talking about Parasite Eve as it celebrates its 20th anniversary. I think we're all still here. I don't think at least I certainly am not on fire or a puddle of sentient goo. I don't know.
Nope, I didn't rapidly combust, strangely enough, even though I know it's like, yeah, from the gameplay, it's like, yeah, apparently all the males, because of their mitochondria, burst into flames. I got lucky.
You know, I have to be a little, we have to be a little careful here. I mean, Shanna and I, we went to the same high school and we both did choir and the musicals and whatnot. Yet she could start singing and I might burst into flame.
Luckily for you guys, I'm not a soprano.
That is true. I might be a little bit more worried if Nader was on this podcast, and
Nader would take us out, and Nader still sings, so she practices.
Yeah. So okay, good. Yeah, I mean, you're. So we have apparently sopranos can ignite people, altos can't. I don't know what the. I don't know, but whatever.
The frequency doesn't get high enough to burst you guys into flames. So.
That doesn't mean that means you can stop trying. That'd be one hell of a mutant power. But I digress. I digress. So we get to day 5, and as you're playing along, you notice that each day has a different name. The day 1 was Resonance. Day 2 is Fusion, Day 3 is Selection, Day 4 is Conception, Day 5 is Evolution. Now, at this point in the game, it sort of gives you free reign to explore basically the entire map. But, number 1, the police station is completely restored.
Yeah, it is. That took no time. It was a day.
Yeah. Day 4 was the whole... it was day 3 that you had the police station, in shambles and broken and property destroyed. Day 4, you're in the hospital, but day 5, good as new.
Although the guy at the front desk, I don't think he ever comes back.
No, he doesn't.
He does? No, he doesn't. There's a guy that he doesn't do anything. It's just basically every time you walk in there, he goes like, hey, working hard or hardly working or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think, but he kind of just disappears after that attack. I guess he got killed. I don't know.
Yeah, there's nobody manning the front desk, so
yeah,
whatever. But now at this point, you are free to explore the entire map. And the game gives you, again, no direction at all as to where to go. But if you look at the locations on the map, you notice 2 locations that you have not been to. There's a warehouse and there's Chinatown. Chinatown advances the plot. The warehouse is the side quest.
Like the lone side quest, essentially. For the first playthrough.
On the first playthrough, yes. The warehouse is the lone side quest. Not required, but if you do the warehouse, it's... I did. And, you get there, and the one lone police officer or 2 that are standing out in front of the warehouse, just like, oh, Eve's in there! And they run for their lives. New York's bravest.
He's basically just like,
bravest.
You take over now, bye.
But yeah, you're here, see ya. And they run. This is the other kind of NYPD officer, the kind who probably doesn't break and enter gun shops and pharmacies. This is probably a fellow who's 2 months away from retirement and doesn't really want to deal with this shit.
But when you see what's inside, you can see why he's scared.
Oh yeah,
pretty creepy. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, you get some pretty tough enemies. You pick up some new weaponry. You pick up some new armor, and you don't find Eve, but you find a crab. A giant crab. In which the basic strategy of the boss, I mean, it's got a lot of HP. But if you manage to stay near one of its claws, you won't get hit, ever.
Although it did creep me out when its eyes pop out of its head and shoots lasers.
Yes, that is a bit creepy. But that's like, okay, you can absorb the hit from those lasers. It's that bubbly thing that emanates from its claws that are the killer because it inflicts a defense down status.
Yeah, that's the worst.
And in Parasite Eve, that is probably the worst status because if you get defense down, your defense is down. Every hit is like a major blow.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, these hits do a little more damage. It's, oh, crap. 3 of these and I'm dead.
Exactly.
Which, all the while as you're playing through this game and going through battles and leveling up, Aya gains parasite energy abilities because of her super special mitochondria. And which come in very handy, especially end game.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, I found personally that the only ones that I ever really used on a pretty regular basis were like the healing ones, occasionally the barrier or haste.
Same here, yeah. I used detox a lot whenever she got poisoned.
Yep, detox, and then later on when you get medic, which removes all status effects.
Mm-hmm.
And like for the early bosses, energy shot was a really powerful attack. But it's like, okay, most of these enemies and bosses you could handle with brute force.
For the most part.
But, you get that defense down on you, and it's like, no, get this off of me immediately. So, you beat the crab, and you gain a rocket launcher.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
For your trouble, you gain a rocket launcher. Now, if you've played any survival horror game, you know that the rocket launcher is not meant to be used for just piddling small shit. Because if you've played any of these games before, you know that you only have a very finite amount of ammo and you're not getting any more.
Right.
Yep.
Like, you get this rocket launcher and you get a maximum of 10 rockets. Like, the only way you will get more rockets is if you play extra game and go into the Chrysler building. So, this is a weapon of last resort.
Which stinks, because I definitely, at one point when I was playing, I equipped it by mistake and didn't realize it, and I ended up wasting one of my rockets on a rat. I was like, are you kidding me?
Well, there's nothing left of that rat.
I mean, that rat was dead, but...
Remember, there is no such thing as overkill. It is only open fire and reload.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, you can do that.
I felt bad for the rat.
Yeah, well, the rat was trying to kill you, so...
Yeah, I don't feel bad.
Rat shooting fire out of its tail. You can... But the rocket launcher, you only have 10 of these, 10 rockets, so this is like definitely weapon of last resort. Also, each weapon has a different rate at which your active time bar meter fills up. And if you equip the rocket launcher, it slows the AT bar down very noticeably.
Right.
Because you do so much damage each turn that the game's going to be like, no, we're not letting you refill this quickly.
Yeah.
Unless you use haste.
It's basically like the game saying, oh, I don't care that we're short. You are not getting overpowered in this.
I refuse to let you break the game.
Because you can't even use tools or bonus points to up the Well, you can't use tools. You can use bonus points to raise the ability of the rocket launcher, but even then, it's like the game's not going to let you become ridiculous. But you only get 10 of these, so it's like, okay, I'm going to pocket this for later. Or use it on a rat. Take your pick.
That was by mistake. I didn't mean to.
Yes. Well, taking a break from the game's story for a bit, it's like the way that it incorporated the RPG elements, I thought was pretty good. I mean, you gain, you level up, you gain abilities as you level up, but you also gain bonus points on each level up that you could use to either increase the stats of your weapons or your armor, or you could use those bonus points toward increasing Aya's item capacity or base rate of the active time bar refresh. So I thought those were actually pretty good.
Yeah, I definitely used it a lot for the item capacity.
Yes.
Absolutely. That, and I think that's where all my points went, was that or the ATB.
Yeah, I mean, you could never have too many items in a game, especially, if you manage to get revives, you try to hold on to them as as best you could. Unfortunately, I went into the final boss with no revives, but a bit of a challenge, doable, but not recommended.
And that's the thing about this game, is that I tend to be, in terms of RPGs, I tend to be a little bit of a hoarder. And this game does not allow you to do that. Like, I'm the one who, when I went up against Sephiroth, I had 99 tents. There's no need to have 99 tents, but I had them. But it drove me crazy, because I'm sitting there and I'm like, I have no room. I have no room. And then every time I turned around, what's his name? Maeda was like, here, have this charm. I'm like, I don't want your damn charm. You're taking away space for medicine. Like, stop giving me this crap.
Yeah, stop giving me this shit.
So yeah, but that made the game tougher for me, because I'm like, okay, I can't load up on curatives and think I'm going to be okay. Like, I really got to play strategically.
You absolutely do. And also, enemies drop junk. Like, literal junk.
Yeah. And the junk actually has a function. So as much as you want to get rid of it, you're like, I could go and turn this into Wayne, and I never got whatever you're supposed to get at the end. I think he gives you a crazy weapon or something.
Yeah, that's after you collect 300 of them. So I was just like, no. Anytime an enemy dropped junk, I'm just like, no, fuck it. No, I'm not no. I've already got Maeda's bullshit in my inventory. I'm not... just no.
I think also another thing that's a little frustrating about this game is that because there's only that one lone side quest, it's like the game literally will not let you get overpowered when it comes to going against the final bosses for this one, because every other Square game, with Final Fantasy and stuff like that, it's okay, the first rule of Final Fantasy when you get towards the middle, do the side quest. If not, do the side quest and do them early, because then that way you can be overpowered and the final story boss will be easy to kill. This game is we're gonna make you in a challenge for you. We're not gonna let you get off easy without being overpowered.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, you can grind. I mean, you can, once you have the ability to go anywhere on the map, you can go to other locations and grind. But man, it is not worth your while. It is really not worth it. You can do it, but man, that's work.
It is.
Yeah. Grinding, the most annoying thing about RPGs ever.
There's not even a place in this game where any one location is that one location with enemies that drop a fuck ton of EXP so that you can... Yeah, there's none of that. It's just, you can grind. The game will let you grind. My God, it's not worth it. it's not worth it unless you are an absolute completionist and you want to do the 77 floor Chrysler building in the extra game where you want to get Aya ridiculously overpowered. But no, I mean, I really liked the added elements, the RPG elements that Square put in. It did not feel like it was tacked on. It felt like it was an integral part of the gameplay. And it made sense that it's just like as Aya realizes more about her body and science, you can let these things happen. So, and the ability to tune up weapons, that was something that I think that this game had over Resident Evil, which I love. I love Resident Evil. It's one of my favorite franchises. In the early games, you can't tune up your weapons.
Yeah.
You can't. Your weapons, you don't even have armor to use. And it's like, not even Leon, and Leon's the fucking police officer. But like your weapons and your armor have slots that you can use tools to cannibalize other items so that you can gain ability. Like, give your weapon the ability to fire up to 5 bullets and try to inflict a tranquilizer effect or a freeze effect or...
Yeah, I definitely got one of my rifles was 5 bullets with the ice effect, so I'm like firing 5 ice bullets at the same time. I'm just like, yeah. That was satisfying.
Fun fact though, obviously you've beaten the game, but as satisfying as having any of your weapons fire 5 bullets at once is, it actually drops the attack power per bullet.
Yeah, I know.
So it's like, yeah, I can shoot 5 bullets at once, but each bullet does less damage.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh. So it's like the sweet spot was like having your weapon fire 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what though, it's so like when you later on in the game when you start getting things like grenade launchers that use the same ammo cache as your handgun, that it's like throwing 5 grenades out is just like, ha 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 ha.
Well, the other flip side of it was when I did have the 5 bullet gun, you're stuck at that point because this is an action RPG, so you're running around and trying to dodge attacks and trying to make sure that when you make your attack, you're not in the line of fire. And the thing that I did notice is when I put the 5 bullet on my gun, I was just sitting duck for those 5 bullets.
Yes, you
and
were.
I would be getting hit with like, whatever, like there were the lizards that like stick their tongue out at you and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and after a while and after the satisfaction walk, I'm like, maybe I ought to drop my bullets because then I can do 2 hits and get out of the way.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting sort of thing to play with all the different ways that you can took your tools, because you also learn things in the field when you start hitting random battles that are like, okay, you see what works and what doesn't work, and it's intuitive.
And for a PS1 game, that's pretty unique.
Yes, absolutely.
All these things that we have now, in current gameplay. This was like a novel idea 20 years ago.
Back then, yeah.
Like, damn. Like levels of customization here. It's really nice. Like, as soon as I got a bit of like junk armor, but it had one of the abilities was it gives you an extra item in your inventory. I'm like, yep, I'm bringing that over. So, and you through the use of tools and super tools to be able to do that, which is pretty unique and a nice way to supplement your gameplay and make it sort of adaptable to your play style.
Yes, exactly.
As it were. So, moving on to day 5. So after the warehouse, after you have the crab dinner, you go to Chinatown, and which leads down into some sewers. Because
there's always a sewer level.
Yep, always gotta be sewers around.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And here you finally see what happened to that orange blob that Eve created back in day 2. Back on Christmas Day. It's like, where did that... Because it's like, in the backyard, it's like, where did that orange blob go? And, they're about to enter the New York City water supply. I can just imagine that, you turn on your faucet, and suddenly this orange goo comes out. And meanwhile, Dana Barrett's going, not this again. God damn it. First it's eggs cooking on my counter. Marshmallow Men. Zool
like, you know what? I'm moving to Chicago. I've had enough of this.
Yeah.
Or pink slime coming out of the tub, the faucet. And just like, really? Like, I'm done. Done.
Alright, I'm packing my bags. I'm out of here.
That's it.
I'm going upstate.
That's it. Going upstate where there's just zombie cows. But so you stop the... Well, you kind of don't really stop the mass from progressing, and the sewers lead into the subway? All right. And, some more exploring, and now it's like, okay, now I'm at the subway, and crap, how do I get out of the subway? You need a key. And you find the key on the body.
Lie. You need a Metro card.
1998, were they on Metro cards, or were they still using tokens?
I don't know.
I think
maybe
probably
they still had
still
tokens.
Yeah, that's probably what they still had back then, was tokens.
But
I'm not sure. Yeah.
But you need a key to get out of the subway, and you find it on the body of a dead cop as you emerge, and it's like, oh, all right, fine. And then it's like you go back into the sewer, you go back into the subway, and then you get this screen, insert disc 2. Like, really?
I know, yeah. I had this moment where I was just like, I feel like I just fell back in a time machine. When is the last time you've seen insert disc 2?
Like, insert disc 2. And I'm like, well, I mean, I have the physical discs. And,
same here.
And, my PS3 is one of, like, the original PS3s that were mostly backwards compatible. So I just popped the disc. But having your disc change in the middle of a chapter just is like, that's odd.
I played it on the PS2. I had to dust that off.
All right. That's fair. Well, like, on the PS3, if you download a game off the PlayStation Network that has multiple discs, like the Legend of Dragoon, for example, that's a 4-disc game.
Yep.
And if you buy this on the PlayStation Network and download it, when it prompts you to change disc, you actually have to go into the PS3 menu and tell it change disc, and then a little message pops up and says, which disc do you want to change this to? And so it basically it tricks the emulator into a disc change.
Oh, that's funny.
Which, was a little jarring at first, but yeah. Change to disc 2, okay? And Aya says something to the effect of, the orange mass is heading to the museum, but you don't see a cutscene to that effect.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, where? Where is it? Are we supposed to take your word? I don't see no orange mass.
How do you know?
How do you know? But, you get out of the subway and you go to the museum because you do. Aya said so. You go to the museum and you find, oh boy, the museum's a trip.
Yeah.
It's the longest quote-unquote dungeon in the game because, you're trying to find Dr. Clamp, and, he's locking doors behind you, and you have to go through all the exhibits, and there are these, little machines that give you questions, and if you answer correctly, you get an item. Really? Do kids...
Exactly. Again, if you did your homework.
Yeah, it's first of all, you have to remember, grade school knowledge, but at the same time, it's wait a minute. Kids probably play with this. Who's hiding bullets in them?
That's very true.
It's again, we play these games when we're younger, and we have that suspension of disbelief. But now it's here we are in our 30s, playing through these games for the first time in 10 or so years, finding all the plot holes and little things that go, huh.
Well.
Oh, so if I answer this question correctly, this random trivia question in the middle of a museum exhibit, my prize is bullets.
I can just imagine back then all the kids that were 18, 19, 20 years old, they're I didn't ever think I would need to remember that knowledge. I'm not going to college for stuff. And that's oh shit. I remember studying about this in high school. Damn it, what was the answer to this?
What was the answer? It's what was the cause of, the oxygenation in the early atmosphere? And it's photosynthesis. So, but the thing is, if you get the question wrong, you won't get the item. If you go back to that thing and you answer it correctly, it won't give you. You have to get it right on the first try to get the item.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's but again, it's just that little funny moment. If what if the museum was open and little kids what was the first who could be traced to who was the origin of the human species? And it's it was in Africa. It was an African female. The origin of mitochondria Eve. It's it was in Africa. It was a woman in Africa. And you hit the button and it pops out. It's Mommy, what is this? And it's a box of bullets. Or it's medicine, and it's wow. All right, that doesn't make any sense, but
And that's when Mom's we're not coming here again. I'm taking you to the challenge center next time.
Yeah, that's and again, thinking about this now, it's oh, Japan, and but no, you're going through this entire long thing. Meanwhile, Eve is just taunting the hell out of you, all the while, because she's that orange blob that is now in the museum just reanimated an entire T-Rex skeleton.
That's one of my favorite parts.
It's how the hell is something like this pulling up a necromancer on the T-Rex skeleton? That scene just reminded me of in one of my favorite book series, the Dresden Files. If you guys haven't checked that out, it's by Jim Butcher. It's freaking amazing. And one of the books called Dead Beat, literally there's a necromancer who revives a freaking T-Rex skeleton from a museum in Chicago, and the main character, Harry Dresden, is son of a bitch, you had to do that. And then he's just all right, you know what, screw it, you reanimated it, it's not doing much, I'm using this against you. And he just freaking rides the damn T-Rex.
So yeah, it's you get to Dr. Clamp's office, and you find out that Dr. Clamp has been helping Eve this entire time. He has engineered special sperm for Eve so that she can create the ultimate being. And once again, this cutscene calls the novel back. Excuse me. It calls the novel back because what happens in the novel here is that once Eve rapes the scientist to get his sperm, she then takes this sperm and the egg that is in Eve and implants it in a little girl who is now pregnant and gives birth very quickly to this thing. Now
to the being, yeah.
To the being, and what happened in Japan was that this thing, which has basically taken the idea of millions of years of evolution and has condensed it into a few minutes.
Yes.
So in the novel, what happens is that the male mitochondria in the sperm realizes what's happening, and in the climactic scene of the novel, the male mitochondria of the sperm and the female mitochondria from Eve are fighting with each other, so this baby thing is shifting between male and female form as they fight for supremacy and dominance. And,
oh my god, wow.
and because of this, the being is also dying at the same time, because just so much of it, like, Eve did not expect this to happen.
Right.
So, in an effort to save humanity, because while this fight is going on inside this baby being, the resultant, like, people are spontaneously combusting. Shit is just really going off the wall. So in an effort to save humanity, the scientist basically just takes the being and tries to comfort it, and in doing so immolates himself.
Right.
And the being dies because all of its energy has been spent.
Right.
So they mentioned this during this cutscene with Clamp. So Clamp decided to engineer special sperm which removed the male mitochondria so that this could not happen again.
Right.
I don't know how you do that, but whatever, Japan. I'll ask the biologist.
The scientist.
All right, I'll ask the science nerd. I'll ask the scientist here.
All right, go for it.
All right, so I just want to let you listeners out there know that we're not just we don't always bullshit things here.
Mostly, but not always.
Yeah, very, very, very fine, sophisticated program we have here on DLC. And Ryan is, he's a biologist. Science nerd over here. So, Mr. Nye, well, no,
well,
different level.
Pain as well, but
different level. So, like, I know it doesn't sound like it's scientifically possible to selectively remove one major component of a cell and have it still work.
So here's the interesting thing about mitochondria. As everybody knows, we all learned it in 10th grade. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. But what not many people know about with the mitochondria is that the mitochondria also has its own set of genetic material, its own mitochondrial DNA per se.
Right.
So, and with Parasite Eve just being all like science fiction and stuff, and saying, oh well, if I remove the mitochondria, the male mitochondria, we can go off. That's complete and total utter bullshit. You still need the male mitochondria in order to actually fully get a working human being. So that's why it's like that's also another reason why the ultimate being fails in the end, is because if you don't have the mitochondrial genes from both the mother and the father, although I guess technically you wouldn't need it, but anyways, I'll go just say for the game's sake, that's why the ultimate being kind of died in the end because of necrosis, is because you don't have a stabilized genes pretty much with that. And that's how basically the ultimate being dies. It's just the cells are unstable, pretty much.
Well, thank you very much for your scientific perspective there. It's I know that and they mention this in the game that the mitochondria has its own specialized genetic material, and there's a symbiotic relationship between the mitochondria and the nucleus, and that's how they get along.
Yep. There's this fun thing, and as with playing through the game, it's like, okay, basically what they're doing for the mitochondria is they're blowing up a process called oxidative phosphorylation, which translated means just that's how the mitochondria makes energy for the cell. They're basically putting that on steroids in the game because it's like everybody's combusting and stuff. It's just like, yeah, apparently. So what they're saying is that the mitochondria in this game are just producing so much energy that's just causing all cells to go up in flames, pretty much.
So it's just interesting, if you are like a bio major or a scientist who's playing this game, it must be sort of, it's either one of those things where you go, that's what you're doing, Square, is bullshit, but that's actually good bullshit.
I was just like, even for a science geek like me, it's just like, you're totally pulling this out of your ass and doing it, but you're doing it in a fun way. I gotta give you props for that.
Like, it's one of those things where, like, yeah, this is bullshit, but there's a drop of plausibility in here. Like, it's not total, making stuff up out of your ass. It's like, yes, this is all fiction, but you're basing it in actual science. So, well done. Bravo!
Science fiction.
Ha! How about that, Shanna? How about that, Shanna? Right there.
Science fiction. Although, interestingly enough, with the mitochondria that they were going on with it, one thing that they actually somewhat get right in Parasite Eve is the fact that with mitochondrial DNA, that actually mostly, if there's anything wrong with your mitochondria, that actually is bound to affect women more than men, because mitochondrial DNA, it comes from your mother more than anything else.
Right.
And so it was just like with Parasite Eve, it's just like, so basically because of like how with the doctor's dead wife and stuff like that, and how transplanting the mitochondria in there, it's just like, hey, there's actually a tad little bit of truth in there. Not enough for it to actually be plausible, but still.
It makes for a good story.
Yep.
It makes for a good story. So it's like, yeah, you can't remove the male mitochondria out of it's like, wait, it's like, nice try there, but okay. You're trying to advance a narrative here. I give you props for that, but it's like, all right, now the science is getting a little but so.
And one other thing I also will add in, just because for the scientist and biology nerd in me, the other thing that they're going into with Parasite Eve is a theory called the selfish gene theory, which basically means that the genes of the mitochondria, as I say, apparently have a will of their own and their own mind, per se. In actual real life, what the selfish gene theory is saying is that it's influenced evolution because, well, per se, by the effects that the DNA has on like the phenotype or what the traits a person has, not necessarily the gene doesn't necessarily have a will of its own, but through all like the mutations and stuff, it actually is kind of being a little quote unquote selfish for how it advances in evolution. So it was an interesting way to put it in Parasite Eve.
It's like I'm playing through this and I'm like getting all of this science and I'm like, oh, well, good thing I passed the Regents then back in high school.
Right.
And like, oh, all right.
It's like for me with a college education and like the whole biology, animal science stuff going into biotechnology, I had to learn about genetics a lot, and I like the molecular biology part of it, but it's just like, please don't give me the statistics bullshit with it. I hate that. But it's like, yeah, you learn some interesting things in molecular biology, and it's just like, oh wait, I see what they're trying to pull out of their ass. Oh, so it's not a full thing of pulling it out of your ass. It's just like, well, there is this little bit here that we're gonna transplant from genetics and stuff. And it's just like, okay, I'll give you props for that for trying.
Yeah. Nice try. I mean, again, this game is the sequel to the novel, and the novel itself was written by a doctor. So, I mean, I think definitely when you can, I mean, pick it up. It's pretty cool to see, how that translates over into the game Parasite Eve. So, but back to Dr. Clamp.
The evil German.
Oh, God. So, special sperm, male mitochondria removed so that we won't have the fighting of the genders, of the sexes, right at birth, causing all that necrosis and all that fun stuff. Was this the point where you had Daniel come in for a second time?
Yes.
And punching the doctor?
Yes.
because he pulls a scalpel on Aya, and then just out of nowhere, bam! Like, here comes the trusty sidekick again.
Daniel's a good partner. What can you say? He's a very good partner.
He's a very good partner. But, he punches him, and, the doctor is, rambling on about, the ultimate being and, his part in all of this. And, he starts waxing, poetic here, and he's asking Eve to take him, and just suddenly he bursts into flames.
Yeah, that part I didn't get.
Yeah.
I'll be brutally honest. Just because I was waiting for him to somehow become like a boss or a minion. I was waiting him to basically have his Hojo moment, so to speak. You know what I mean? I figured at some point Eve's going to come in and be like, "You have helped me, and now I will help you be stronger." That moment, and then he would get all mutated, and you'd have to fight him. So for him to just burst into flames and that was it, I was like, "Oh, really? Okay." That was not what I was expecting.
Yeah, I felt the same. Like a bit anti-climax. I was waiting for a boss battle.
Me too.
Great analogy. I did not even make that connection, like waiting for his Hojo moment. Like, that's good. That
was the way I thought of it.
Well done, Shanna. And
Thank you.
But yeah.
I'll adjust my glasses now.
All right. Do you want me to start calling you Lucretia? Anyway, and for our next trick, but yeah, I was waiting for him to become a boss, because the game felt like at this point, like, you're gonna have to fight this guy because he is complicit in all of this, and there's also, you could also read this as, he was seduced by Eve as well. Mm-hmm. That you could definitely take that reading of it as well. But he just burns, and, he questions Aya, like, why do you still want to be human, and blah, blah, blah. And, humanity sucks, and he dies.
Yeah.
That's basically it. That's his ending.
Yeah. Humanity sucks, he dies, but you find on his burning body a key, because there are several doors in the museum that you cannot get to until you have the key. But, so you pick up the clamp key, which is what it's called in the game, and you finally get to some of these rooms that you weren't allowed into. So it's like, hey, extra weapons, armor, great. Oh, they're giving me some... there's that whole, wait a minute, they're giving me a bunch of stuff. Something's about to happen.
Yeah.
So... into one room, and you're here with a sort of mini boss, the skeleton of a triceratops.
Oh, that drove me crazy.
Because you have to blow its head off first.
Yeah. But it keeps charging you.
Yes, it does. Because
a lot.
Because orange goop, and and you beat that, and then as you try to leave the room, it cuts to a scene where just this other triceratops, or maybe the same triceratops, charges at you and hurls you down to where the T-Rex is hiding.
Yeah, they give you no breathing room.
Yeah, so again, if you die here, you're going to have to face the Triceratops and the T-Rex again. But, you know, T-Rexes as bosses went pretty easy.
Kinda, yeah.
I mean, it's a big creature, so there's a lot of ways you could try to minimize or avoid damage. But, you know, not too bad. And after this battle, I leveled up and I gained the greatest of Aya's powers, Liberate.
Yes.
So, this is just... This move is just absolutely beautiful because it's, you know, it's the last thing you learn. That's when, if you use this ability, it uses your entire parasite energy meter. And it's basically Aya just lets go. Like, holy hell breaks this because it's a 7-hit attack. She transforms into her own mitochondrial being and just beats the shit out of anyone.
It's beautiful.
The moment when Aya uses the Liberate ability kind of reminded me from Final Fantasy, and I will say 6 in this case because that's the one that I played when it was on the GBA. I think it was Final Fantasy 4 on the NES. But basically, when Terra transforms into her Esper ability and just how freaking powerful she is with that, it's just like is Aya having a Terra moment? Holy crap!
It kind of is.
It kind of is.
You mention it.
It made me think a little bit of Omni Slash. That's sort of
yeah.
That's because she gets 7 hits, and they are powerful hits. Like each hit is taking out between like 250 and 350 damage, and she does this 7 times.
Yeah, it's basically the Omni Slash for Parasite Eve, basically. I can only imagine using that against Eve. Have like a final scene like with Final Fantasy VII Cloud versus Sephiroth, and you can only do the limit break, and it's just Omni Slash.
But they make a point of showing you how powerful it is because when you're done with it, Aya actually gets she's like kind of woozy, the animator, so she looks like she's about to pass out for a minute before you start going again.
Yeah, and it's like, she's passed out for a few seconds because the Parasite Eve the Parasite energy bar doesn't start refilling automatically.
Exactly.
She's wobbly for a few seconds, which could be a very precious few seconds that she's a sitting duck.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh crap, she can't move. And spamming buttons ain't gonna work.
No.
Exactly. No.
It's like, nope, you've just used this very powerful move. She's a little woozy. So, and then you finally beat the T-Rex, and then you see a very, very pregnant Eve.
Yep.
A very, very pregnant Eve.
That was fast. Again.
Again, yeah.
A matter of a day or so.
Oh, Japan.
Yeah, well, this is... Yeah, I can't really say that. And then this is another thing that I mentioned on Facebook. It's like, okay, Square figured out to get around the nudity flag.
Yep.
Yep. You could have your character be completely and utterly and obviously naked, but as long as you don't put nipples or pubes on her, she's decent.
Throw a couple of extra arms in there too, a couple of tentacles. Like, see, she's not even human.
Yeah, really?
And of course, I can imagine every guy playing this everywhere going, I've seen enough hentai to know where this is going.
Yeah, this is one of those moments where you look at the box and go, what was this rated?
It should be more.
I'm like, that's how Square got around the AO rating. It's like, all right, she's very obviously female. You know, the breasts give it away. Yeah, as long
very
as
pregnant.
She's very pregnant. She's utterly naked, just complete. But no, as long as you don't put nipples on her, You don't give her any pubes. Nope, she's good. She's decent. Perfectly decent.
She doesn't even really have a nether region, to be honest.
Nope.
It's just sort of like, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing like that. Just, all right, she's good. She's fine.
Just boobies, yep.
So, some more dialogue, and she forms this shield around her while the ultimate being is gestating. The military steps in, and nothing they do works. Yeah, nothing they do works. Make your jokes as you will. But whatever. I see our Patriots don't work either.
It's like we have this huge biological weapon, and yet there's nothing worse, Jack, that the military has to kill it. Yeah, what does that tell you?
So they're like, they have a plan. They're like, yeah, we've got a nuclear warhead attached to one of these helicopters. You're the only one who can do this without combusting. Can you go? Oh, and by the way, I was like, I don't know how to fly a helicopter. Oh no, the helicopter is completely on autopilot. Just all you have to do is just pull the trigger. And I'm like, really?
Wow.
Like this NYPD rookie can just get in a helicopter that apparently has been programmed to fly exactly where it needs to. Like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. So, fine, whatever. Aya's support goes up in flames, literally. She fires the nuke. It works? Question mark? The Statue of Liberty gets destroyed.
But, again, this is another point where, the entire scene, because basically this is when all the goop sort of gets like an anthropomorphic form, right?
Yes.
It's kind of like just this big person. How is that not a boss battle? I don't know if maybe it was the capability of the PS1 at the time, but then again, we just come off of Final Fantasy VII where you've got, the highway chase and the submarine and all that stuff. So, it was one of those moments where I'm like, okay, well, it was a good cutscene and all, but how are we not sitting here in a helicopter having to fight this thing? How is that not part of the game?
Agreed.
Maybe it's something that if they were to ever reboot it, maybe it's something that they could add, but it was just sort of one of those weird things where it almost felt like a missed opportunity.
Yeah. You finally do get your battle with Eve, though. After the goop, is everywhere, the Statue of Liberty is gone. Sorry, France. And but now you are fighting Eve on Liberty Island, right by this very, very broken Statue of Liberty. And it's a 2-part battle, and this is what we call our difficulty spike, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yes.
Because up to this point on my playthrough, my most recent playthrough in preparation for this episode, I had not hit a game over. I hit a game over here. This is one of those moments where I'm sort of cruising along, and Eve was just like, nope. We're going to put a stop to that. So I'm like, okay, how do I... Because the first part of this battle, Eve has 3 distinct attackable parts. Because she's got the torso, she's got the very bulbous midsection-y thing, and tendrils for legs. I'll call them. I don't know. Whatever.
Which she literally, bitch slaps you with those tendrils.
Yes, she does.
That was the thing that kept getting me, was I'd try to get in to get a shot, and the next thing you know, she would grab me up and just start punching me, and I'm just like, no, stop. That was how she got me every time.
Yeah, because the 3 tentacle attacks, she's got a white one, a brown one, and a red one.
Right.
The white one is just a regular attack. The brown one inflicts a confusion status effect and does damage. And
I will say, the confusion effect, sorry to interrupt, but I really did like the confusion effect in this game.
Yes, where basically...
Because it basically messes up your directionals.
Yep. Yes, it does.
That is literally the most annoying part about that damn effect.
It is, but it was a good way of going about it. I mean, it's like, yep, she's confused.
Yeah, she's absolutely confused. It's better than just sitting in one place spinning.
Yes.
Sitting in one place spinning, or with stars around her head or something like that.
Maniacally laughing.
Yeah.
Cough, cough, Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, but even though she was in a confused status, she could still fire at the target. Go figure. Go figure. But the red tendril was the worst because it automatically knocked your HP down to 1.
Yes.
That was the most... I think that was the reason why I blew through all of my revives.
Yeah.
It was this battle that I lost all of my revives. It was just like, all right. So I'm like, all right, what the hell? How do I approach this? Because this is not one of those battles where if you just take out the head, the battle is over. You have to destroy all 3 parts.
Yes.
So I'm like, what do I have? What the fuck do I only have 10 rockets, and I know what's coming.
Yeah.
This is my second playthrough, so it's like, I know the battle that comes after this. I'm going to need all of those rockets. What do I do here? I have Liberate.
Ooh.
And Liberate, when you use it on this first part of Eve, it moves the attack around. So she doesn't just hit one section of Eve. She'll go, the game will decide where those hits land. But it makes that battle quite easy. It's so much easier. And, it helps, but it's like, since the attack doesn't necessarily kill any one of those 3 parts, it just weakens them all. So it's like, all right, break out a grenade launcher, and it's like the game will tell you when one of those parts has been destroyed because it'll take it off your choices. But she'll also do this sort of seductive moan thing. It's just like, all right, whatever. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you get through this battle.
Female villain.
You get through this battle, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, more? And now she's, no longer does she have any of these tendril-looking things, or, now she looks mostly human again. She looks more like Melissa at the start of the game.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have the pregnant belly or anything like that. She is 99% naked.
She kind of reminds me of...
With wings.
I think it was the final boss in Tactics. Final Fantasy Tactics.
I've never played Tactics, so that one is...
Me neither.
Basically it's the same thing. It's like a woman with wings and, kind of has that, messed up angel kind of look to her. In a sense.
All right, but again, square and also their wings. Everything's wings.
Yep.
Yep.
But now they do, and now you have this form, and now she's got now she has an ability where she can just root you to the spot, and paralyze.
Yeah.
Oh, great. And she can go up into the air and fire this purple arrow spear thing, and if it hits you, or the blast radius hits you, defense down. If you get close to her and she hits you, poison.
She's not messing around. She wants you to use your medic for all it's worth.
Oh yeah. So, and meanwhile, I'm just like, all right. Come on, energy bar. I want to pull off Liberate again. Come on. And here is where I figured out a trick to get that energy bar to fill up. Because if you notice, if you're playing and you use your parasite energy powers like more than 4 or 5 times in a given battle, you'll notice that the rate that that energy bar fills back up reduces to a crawl.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
So I figured this out by accident. I was in the Eve battle where when it was my turn, I changed armor to an armor that I had that resisted poison or something like that. And I noticed that by changing the armor, it reset the rate at which the energy bar filled.
Oh, really?
It does. It resets it back to normal rate. Because the rate that the bar fills is determined by a stat in your armor.
Ah.
So, by switching armor, the game resets the rate at which the bar fills to adjust for the new armor.
Ooh, hey, we found a good hack in the game, even though it's not really a hack.
So, I'm like, oh.
It's more of an oversight, but a useful oversight.
I'm like, oh. Well then. Alright, I'll switch armor. Then when it's my turn again, I'll switch back to my stronger armor and go from there. So it's like, all right, I just need to stay alive long enough for this to fill back up, liberate, game. Eve dies, quote unquote.
Nice.
Eve dies, quote unquote. I'm like, oh, you bitch. But as she's dying, you know, she is like stunned beyond disbelief. Like, how are you our natural enemy? You know, and she dies, she collapses into the orange goo, but not without giving you one last smirk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it's like, okay, why'd she do that? And this is one of my favorite things about this game, is that I usually hate when a game does a bait and switch at the end. Like, the game has been building up so much to this battle, because this has been your antagonist for the entire game. You beat it, and then the game throws another boss at you that you have never seen before, and you have no feeling about. Just like, I'm the one that's been pulling the strings all along. Ha-ha! I hate games that do that. I've played so many JRPGs that do that, and it drives me nuts. Like, but we just resolved the conflict. Why are you here? Who the fuck are you? But in Parasite Eve...
That is such a trope, yeah.
In Parasite Eve, they actually have been building this alongside Eve. The whole ultimate being subplot now comes into focus, because this is why Eve gives you that last smirk as she's fading into the goop, because she has left a failsafe.
Yep.
So while you're back on this, while you're on the Navy ship, you know, it's like, yeah, this is over, and yay, and Aya is like, you hear the heartbeat noise, like you're about to go into a battle, and you're like, uh-oh.
Shit, here we go.
And then the whole boat shakes. And it's like, and you see, it cuts to the cutscene of the ultimate being born, and nothing gets on your nerves quicker than hearing a baby screaming.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, you're kidding me, right?
The baby emerges from the womb in the goop, starts crying, and suddenly, like, half your battleships explode.
Yeah. Yep.
And meanwhile, I'm like, damn, that's better than, you know, causing an entire audience to spontaneously combust. You scream and battleships explode.
And mind you, it's like, here enters the world's ugliest baby.
Oh god, yeah, I saw playthroughs of going through against that thing. It's just like, oh god.
But
it's like, behold, a face not even a mother could love.
Yeah.
Unless that mother is Eve, but that's a completely different story.
Yeah.
But you know, hopefully you saved in the room just behind you before this
Right.
battle, because you really don't want to have to fight Eve and then this one after the other again. So it's like, I saved, because you have that. I love the fact that save points were telephones. I feel that I feel like that was a direct, sort of middle finger at Capcom. Like, wait a minute, you use ink ribbons? Get with the times, man. We've got. It's like, get with it, man. I mean, anyway. So you save in the room. Hopefully you got some medicines from the Navy officer in that room.
Mm-hmm.
And all right, here we go. And then Daniel and Maeda, they have to get on the helicopter to escape. And Maeda, again, but Aya, I have to give you.
And Daniel's just like, come on, we gotta go.
Daniel is like, Aya's got no time for your voodoo shit.
That's like one of the best lines.
And I'm like, oh, Barrett. And like, and Maeda's like, no, this isn't voodoo or anything. Like, I need to. No,
come on,
you're coming with me. And all right, here we go, baby. And so here we go. First form of the final boss, the ultimate being. It is easy. The first form is a gimme.
I mean, it's literally fighting a baby.
Yeah, it's easy to kill.
The only thing it does is that it shoots out these like sort of sonic waves that hit you for a really small amount of damage. The only thing that it does that if you don't kill it quick enough, that even the baby has a bit of a punch, because the baby does sort of like a body slam.
Yeah.
And if you are in the range of that body slam, your HP goes down to 1. So I decided, again, on my most recent playthrough, I forgot about that, and it knocked me down to 1, and then it was like my immediate next move, because it did the body slam while I was in mid-firing. So it's like, it did the body slam, it knocked me down to 1, but then the next bullet killed it.
Nice.
So then I'm going into the second form with 1 HP.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So I decided, I'm like, you know what? And obviously I died.
Yeah, to me, the second and the fourth forms are the most annoying of the ultimate being.
Yeah, because mind you, this final boss is the gift that keeps on giving. I mean,
yep.
It was, because you're already pretty tired at the end of this game, because think about it, you go through like just a labyrinth of boss fights between, like, once it kicks off at the Triceratops, it's just you're going, and by the time you beat Eve, there is this sense of relief, like, all right, I did it. And then it's like, okay, there's another boss, but it keeps going. And you're like, all right, I beat the baby, this is it, right? Okay, it's evolving. All right, it's just got to be, this is it. This is the final form. It's ugly as heck. It's got to be the final form. And it's like, okay, it's changing again. Yeah. And you're just like, when is this boss ending? I'm running out of items.
Yeah. So first form baby, that's easy. So I decided on this first form, you know what? I'm not even going to let it do the body slam. 1 liberate, done. Out. Just no. I'm going to go into this second form with full health.
Yeah.
Because as I said, I'm out of revives at this point. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I need to. For me, the hardest form is the third form. So
yeah.
So when it's actually the mature being.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm like, okay, second form. All right, it shoots out these little pew pew, lightning balls at me. All right, I'm just gonna keep shooting it with my grenade launcher and wait until my bar fills back up. Liberate. If you're lucky, Liberate takes it out. Hopefully you've done enough damage with your grenade launcher or your rocket launcher to the point where when you use Liberate, it finishes it off. Sometimes it doesn't, and so when you do enough damage to it, it separates into this crawling figure and just this set of wings flying around shooting projectiles at you.
That's funny.
So
I've never done that.
yeah, when you do enough damage to it, it separates out just to annoy the crap out of you.
Yeah.
Because the
Well, that I remember. Yeah.
the child, its only move is that it shoots a purple beam that spans the screen.
Yeah.
So you have to run to try to avoid it, while at the same time, just this set of wings is firing little pissant projectiles at you. So, if you're lucky, Liberate takes it out, and then it's like, okay, second form is done. Then the music ramps up, and now you're at the mature being, third form. And, yeah, Shanna, like you were saying, it's like, oh god, just end. End. It's also the form with the most HP. It's got 3,500 HP.
Yeah.
It's like, oh god. And, you know, I have armor at this point. I've equipped armor which automatically uses a medicine when the HP falls below 100.
Yeah.
So it's just like, this third form just goes through all of that immediately.
Right.
Because again, it's like, okay, I just used Liberate. I have to wait for the energy bar to fill back up, so I'm just like, fuck it. I've got all my rocket launcher left. Let's just go. Just fucking go.
It needs to die.
Kill this.
It needs to die.
Remind me again. Is the third form that one that has like those floating? I wouldn't call them projectiles, but whatever the hell those things are that are like constantly shifting it, and as you're trying to fire at this damn thing, they're firing things back at you.
No, that's the fourth form.
Oh yeah, that. Yeah.
So third form, you know, again, same strategy. It's just like, you just have to try to survive long enough so that you can try to get a Liberate off.
Yeah.
Because if you have a full rocket launcher, usually you've done enough damage with the rocket launcher that by the time you're able to pull off Liberate again, it will take care of it or come very close to.
Right.
So, but again, the key is you have to survive, and this thing just keeps fucking hitting for so much damage every single time. But once you beat that, it's just like, okay, done? Is it no, it's not done.
Fourth form.
Fourth form, and now it's this, like, adult humanoid jellyfish thing, stingray. I don't know how else to describe it.
I don't think there is any other way to describe it. It literally is just, like, green glowing goop, but kind of corporeal in a way.
Yeah, and the thing that you notice right away is that suddenly your weapons do 1 damage, 1 damage, 2 damage, and I'm going, oh, fuck no. Fuck no. No.
And it's this fourth form that has those annoying floating projectile things that are also hitting you with like these lasers at the same time.
Yeah. And these little pew pew things that take out 60 HP a shot. So I'm just like, oh god, like if I had any rocket launcher left at this point, I would shoot it at 1. I'm like, what? This is supposed to be like a boss killer. What the fuck is it only doing 1 HP worth of damage? So I'm like, alright, fuck it. I'm just gonna, handgun, grenade, whatever, and just start firing it. So you do this about 10 times, and it's like, even like Liberate, nothing. It's just like, yeah, sure, haha. And once you do like 15 HP worth of damage, it cuts to a cutscene of Daniel's greatest moment. Part 3.
Oh my god, I love it.
But that is the awesome cuts.
Part 3, where Maeda is like, man, I wish I could have given these bullets to her. And Daniel's like, what?
Shit.
Daniel's like, yeah, these are bullets that have Aya's cells in them. She could have used them to kill that thing. And Daniel's like, why didn't you say so? And I'm going, he tried to give them up from you, but you said stop with your voodoo crap. He tried to. You prevented him from doing that, you asshole. Granted, Maeda could have said, like, no, these are bullets.
True, yeah.
Instead of just, like, stammering. But, when you give Aya 4 useless good luck charms, I mean, you're going to establish a pattern here.
Yeah.
So Daniel's like, give me that, takes the bullets, jumps out of the helicopter. Okay. No parachute. I'm like, what are you doing, Daniel? You did not think this through.
Halfway down, he bursts on fire.
Yeah, he spontaneously combusts because now he's getting close to this ultimate being. Somehow he manages to throw the clip of bullets directly at Aya without something called wind resistance. And
even the best.
The Earth's physics failed completely at this point, just to give Aya a good narrative.
And of course, the best part, he's still on fire, and then he just lands in the ocean and gets extinguished. And it's just like,
oh yeah, he's on fire. Oh, how nice that New York Harbor was right there.
Yeah.
How utterly convenient that there was a nice body of water for him to crash into. Also, ow, that's one gigantic belly flop.
Belly flop.
From
Like
distance.
To be broken.
That is one hell of a drop in a belly flop like that. Like, ow! Like, if you don't have any broken bones, you certainly aren't breathing for a few seconds.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Exactly.
He's on fire, so whatever. He's fine now. He doesn't even suffer like any actual residual burn.
That's what I love, because like when you see him, obviously after all this, there's not even any burn marks on his suit. Like he's just fine. He's like, oh man, this has been crazy, but look at the sunrise, and it's like, shouldn't we be taking you to the hospital, Daniel?
Yeah, like really.
There should be a moment where Aya's just like, oh yeah, he's in the hospital. Like he got a little burned up and beat up from falling into the water like that, but he's going to be okay.
Yeah,
Nothing.
The hospital, which is at this point is now reduced to like 1 doctor and 2 nurses.
Oh yeah, that's true. Good point.
Yeah. So fine. So then you get this clip of bullets, and because Maeda gave you a gun beforehand, which
right.
You look at the stats and it does like 1 damage. You're like, why the fuck do I need this gun? But the game, he tells you like, hold on to this gun, it'll be important. You get a special clip of bullets that every single bullet does 999 damage. So 6 of these bullets, it finally reduces into a puddle of goo. And you finally are like, finally, it's over. Credits. Come on, credits. Nope! Nope, because, it's now giving chase!
And for me, this was the most pulse-pounding part of the game for me.
Same for me, because you have the music that accompanies this. Like, dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
Which now, I got trolled so hard this week. Okay. So after the battle, after the 4-part boss battle, this thing is chasing me. So I run into that first room, and I see the blinking light of the phone.
Right.
And I'm going, save point. I pick up the phone, and the creature is still moving very slowly toward me, all this. And it says, communications failure. And I'm going, no, you fucking thing. So I try to race to the door, and as Aya is in the middle of opening the door, the creature gets her. Game over.
Oh no, that's awful.
Because the game trolled me into thinking that this was an active save point.
That's just cool.
So this was like Wednesday night, April had already gone to bed. I could not throw the controller. I was so angry at having gone through this 4-part difficult boss fight and getting fooled by a fake save point.
And you know the programmers did that on purpose.
Yes.
Yep.
Developers definitely did that on purpose.
Yep. So I'm like, all right, fine. So the next day I'm like, all right. I beat the boss again, but with some difficulty again. And this time I'm like, no, I'm just gonna run. Just run, because, you know, the creature is very slowly moving toward you. And the closer you get to the end of the ship, the music gets faster.
Oh, absolutely.
And, you know, and you could swear that this creature is also starting to pick up speed.
Yeah.
So it's like you get down to the boiler room, and Aya has... This is where Aya has, like, the cheesiest line in the game. She rigs the boiler so that it's going to explode. And she's hoping that she's going to blow up the battleship with the creature still on it, hoping that it does it once and for all. But she looks at this creature that's slowly moving toward her, and she's like, "You know where we are? We're in Hell's Kitchen."
No, I love that.
Yeah.
We're in Hell's Kitchen. That's her last line. And then you get control of her again, and you have to book it. You have to get the fuck off this ship. And along the way, there are dead ends.
Yeah.
So, luckily, I was like, I didn't hit any of the dead ends, but just after that one fake save point. So, finally, get off the ship. Now, you know, and even then, you know, first playthrough, it's like, okay, the ship blew up. The being was on it. Over? Are we done? Are we done? And yes, you are done. You sank the Navy's battleship. And, Finally. And yeah. It's over. And, you know, you get the, again, final cutscene there, and, you know, you get the last bit of science from Maeda that the reason why Aya has the special mitochondria was because the kidney went from Maya to Melissa, but Aya had a defect in her right eye, and they transplanted Maya's cornea onto Aya's. They gave Maya's cornea to Aya. That had the special mitochondria on it, and that is why Aya, you know, can do the things she does.
Which, how does she not remember that?
Yeah, because that happens when she's 7 years old. You would remember that.
Yeah, I would remember that.
Like, you have memory by that point. You know. But she's like, really? I don't remember that. Really?
Wow.
I mean, you could...
The thing that was weird is I think Daniel's the one who's like, yeah, that happened to you. It's like, how does he know that? Because they don't ever there's never a point in the game where they're like, oh yeah, Daniel watched me grow up or something. Daniel's just her work partner. I'm like, why would he know that?
Again, just whatever, just Japan and move on. And you know, Maeda, you know, has the closing line of, you know, that humans are actually parasites, and, you know, that something like this is going to happen again. I'm like, wow, really, you know, misanthropic view of the world there, you know, Mr. Nerd. So, you know, and then, hey, look, the sun's rising. Oh, thank you, Daniel. Shouldn't you be having third-degree burns, you know?
Shouldn't you be in the hospital and have broken bones?
Yeah, but no, he's fine. Not a ruffle on his suit. His very blocky suit. But,
oh, PS1 graphics.
Yep.
Then we love you.
You know, then we cut to the final cutscene, and we go back to the opera. I'm like, oh, God.
I don't need any more PTSD.
I'm like, okay, first of all, number one, how did they rebuild that opera house so fast?
I mean, it's Carnegie Hall. It would be closed for a while.
Yeah, Carnegie Hall. Why are they performing that same opera?
Yeah.
Number two, because, when you go through the Carnegie Hall in the start of the game, like, there's fire damage, there's structural damage, there's a hole in the stage.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell did... Well, it was probably the same contractor that fixed up the police station, I'll bet you.
Somebody's making some good money.
Wow. Like, okay. They're performing the same opera, and just like... And, okay, first of all, Aya is the only one that did a costume change. The other three characters that come along with her, Dan, Ben, and Maeda, are still in the same... They are ripe. Aya is in, like, the fancy slinky dress.
Yeah.
The other three haven't even changed a scrap.
Yeah.
And Maeda is trying, he's worked up the courage to try to mention that he's got a crush on Aya. But then, right at the second, Ben's just like, move over, scram. I'm sitting next to Aya. I'm like, oh.
I love how lighthearted this all gets at the end. It's just such an adorable, cheesy RPG ending in this game.
It absolutely is. And it's like, and at the moment in the opera where everyone's supposed to catch on fire, it's like the entire cast just stands up, like, in anticipation, waiting.
Well, that's because there's a part of the opera where a guy comes out with a torch, so they see the fire and they all freak out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, they do, and then nothing happens, and there's actually a line of text from the audience like, "Hey, can you sit down? We can't see."
There's a down in front line.
Yeah. There's a down in front line, and then, that whole thing about, then the opera goes, and then, a brief few seconds with, like, the mitochondria, and then everyone's eyes start glowing?
What was that? That's the thing I didn't understand. What
Everyone's
did that mean?
eyes start glowing, and game.
Yeah.
Okay! Like...
Okay, so I'm not the only one who didn't know the meaning of that at the end when their eyes start glowing.
Like, is Aya's mitochondria reacting with everyone else's, and it's having that effect?
Because it seems like she initiates it. Like, she gets up, I think, at the end.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, that's when all the eyes start glowing.
Like, there's a fan theory that, there's a line very early in the game where Melissa says, like, the more you use these powers, the more you become like me.
Ah.
So that's a possible fan theory, but at the same time, just everyone's eyes start glowing, and game.
Yeah.
So, that is Parasite Eve. You get the extra game, in which the only additional thing that you get is the Chrysler building. in which it's a 77-story quote-unquote dungeon, where at the top of it is the quote-unquote true final boss. I hate that design choice in a video game. Like, you bury the true final boss on a forced replay.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's not cool.
And, like, when you start the game over, you start back at level 1.
What? Really?
Yeah, you start back at level 1. The only things that carry forward with you for the new game plus is the the weapon and the armor that Wayne engraves for you near the end.
Oh, right, yeah.
That carries over, and anything you had in storage carries over. Everything else you lose.
That's no fun. The whole point of New Game Plus is so you can blast through it and then get to the extras.
Yeah. So you start at level 1 again. And I'm just like, actually, you know what? Fuck this. It's the only extra thing in the game and it serves no narrative function, screw you. So, you know, even though there are moments in this game that are like, yeah, you make no sense. I still do. Even, 10 years after I played this for the first time, this game still holds up. I love it.
It straddles a perfect balance between it is dated in certain respects, but it's not dated to the point where it's not enjoyable. Like, the game still holds up. It's still fun. The storyline, even though it's silly, it's also fantastic, and it's creative and it's different. It's different than a lot of stories, especially RPG stories, and horror stories alike. It's got a very interesting science fiction that I don't think we've really seen in many other, genres. And but it's also got this fun sort of, it came out in the late 90s at a time where we loved buddy cop movies like Lethal Weapon and stuff, so it's got this campiness to it as well. And
yes,
it's just all around great.
Like, it's a serious game, but I think that's one of the things that really sort of like separates it from Resident Evil 2, where, Resident Evil 2, there are really no lighthearted, funny, or any sort of campy it is serious and grim.
Yes.
All the way through. Parasite Eve does have, it is a very serious game and a very serious narrative, but there are moments where you just burst out laughing.
There are moments of levity in it.
Yeah, poor reporter. And and so, Ryan, you being, the science educated one here, what was, for you, like, was this one of those games where, like, you play this game and then, like, all of the science in it, was it one of those games where you had to rip it apart because it was, the science was, flimsy in places, or was this one of those where you could just let it go and just have fun?
There were a couple points where I did have to sort of rip it apart a little bit. The first one was the whole thing, like, where you're in when you go back to, like, when you go back to the lab where you find that orange gel and the orange goop and stuff like that, and how they're talking about, and like as well as the whole thing about how I told you about the gene theory that was going on. I kind of had to look up those a little bit and see what was going on. I was like, okay, so they kind of kept it a little bit, but it was just like when Dr. Klum was like about the whole thing of making that such a sperm. I'm just like, really? Yeah, I had to do that. So it's like, I gotta digress on that. But otherwise, I found it pretty interesting. And actually, I'm looking up one thing right now that I almost completely forgot about. Parasite Eve is actually is also actually a play on words of another very scientific thing called the mitochondrial Eve, and that actually very much ties into this game. Yes, so what the mitochondrial Eve is basically the most recent common ancestor of all currently living humans on the mother side, basically. And interestingly enough, which I had forgotten about, is another thing called the Y chromosomal atom, and that's who all living humans are descended from on the father's side. So that mitochondrial Eve is also kind of a little play on words too with Parasite Eve as well. And the interesting thing with that is when they were going about with the ultimate being, kind of ironic in a sense, because you start off with Eve, and if we go off like with Parasite Eve and mitochondrial Eve, I guess you could kind of say that Eve herself is like a mitochondrial Eve giving rise to the ultimate being in a sense. So that was actually a cool little thing I didn't realize, and I just looked it up and I'm like, well, they actually managed to kind of pull that off pretty well.
And if they had extended the game one more day, if it was a 7-day thing, the game would have ended on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
If they wanted to put a nice little, because the game starts on Christmas Eve. Yeah, like, I mean, the game doesn't specify at the end how much has elapsed between the boss and when they all go to the opera. I mean, it's pretty obviously it has to be pretty recent.
It has to be, which...
it can't be too long, but
because Ada does say at some point he's like, I have to go back to Japan, so
yeah.
I'm guessing he just went out there for what was happening, so I'm assuming that it had to be like, oh, I'm done now and I'm getting ready to go back. But...
yeah. It's like, and I know we've gone like almost 2.5 hours talking about this game, but it's a good game.
It's a good game. One other note I will say is that as far as female protagonists go,
yes,
I find Aya to be quite progressive. The thing I really liked about her character is they didn't, and this is like probably obvious, but they didn't needlessly sexualize her until Parasite Eve 2. But it would have been so easy to do that with her, and to a certain extent with with Eve's character, which she goes on the like gross sexy kind of thing, but we're talking, this is a time where, the biggest female video game character at the time was Lara Croft, enough said.
Mm.
And they actually made Aya a fully realized character, but she also could have easily fallen into a trope. Like, she's a cop. They could have given her the, like, tough female trope. Like, basically, I hate to say it, but, like, the lightning treatment. You know what I mean? Where she's just like, I don't need your help. And they didn't do that. She's tough and she's capable and she can take care of herself, but she's also sensitive. She's got the connection with Aya, and they also cleverly wrote in a reason why she does handle everything on her own. Because again, they could easily say like, have her come in like, I have to handle this. This is my fight. But they literally write in like, no, I'm the only person who won't burst into flames if I get close to these people. So I'm going to go in and do it. And then she goes in and takes care of what she has to do. But it's very nuanced, but I think because of those choices, she's a character that we don't typically see, a female character that we really don't see in games at that time, where she doesn't fall into the stereotypes and she's just a female protagonist, and you don't even look at the game as it's a female-fronted game, which I think in a way is very, very progressive.
I agree completely. I mean, there is really, there's not very many points in the game at all where, Square could have Square could have easily, for lack of a better phrase, slutted her up. And,
yes.
And they do in the third birthday, and that is why I got 30 minutes into it and put it down in disgust. There's, I don't like let's make her get more naked the more damage she takes. Just no, fuck you.
Yeah.
And as she's getting more and more injured and getting more and more naked, let's have the clothes tear in just the right places to flaunt her bits. Fuck you. So that's why I kind of pretend like the third game doesn't exist. They start going down that path a little bit in the second game, which you alluded to.
Yeah.
Shower scene, anybody?
The one thing I will add in with Parasite Eve is that this first game also kind of has many, and I have a feeling that they may have drawn off it a bit. One of the CGI animated movies for Resident Evil, and that just recently came out, called Resident Evil Vendetta. I don't know if either of you two.
I've heard of it.
Yep. One of the similarities I have actually drawn with it is that with Parasite Eve, you know how you have the whole thing of like the mitochondria, like sort of taking over and just having the mind of its own. In Vendetta, it's interesting because what they do in Vendetta is it's still the same old whole Resident Evil. You still have to go against these zombies infected, like with the people infected by the T virus, and I think there's a new one which I forget what it's called, but it's the interesting story and the similarities kind of with Parasite Eve almost in a sense is that it's with Vendetta, it's more of a little bit more of an evolution in a sense with like the monsters that they go against, And it's almost kind of like the same. I'd say there's a little bit of a similarity between Parasite Eve and Resident Evil Vendetta in that sense.
A bit. I haven't seen Vendetta, so I mean, I'll have to check.
It's a good. I honestly liked it a lot. These the CGI movies are a lot better than the live action. I can tell you that.
Well, good. So the last thing I want to mention about the first game is the music of the game, and
yes,
yeah, the music was written by Yoko Shimomura, which, you know, if you have ever played Kingdom Hearts, you've heard her music.
Fangirl.
You know, she's.
Pardon me.
Fangirl away. You're allowed. Yoko Shimomura wrote the score for Parasite Eve 1, and it's a really, really interesting. So it fits very well.
Yes.
Like, it sounds like she was deliberately going for, like, I don't know. I think the best word I can think of is like inorganic. In that, you know, it doesn't sound like it's like a score written for a horror movie.
Yeah.
It's sort of, it feels more like sci-fi and not atmospheric. Like, there are moments in the game where obviously the music matches what's going on in the game, but the music still manages to give off an emotional response. You know, whether you're exploring an area, the battle music feels really cool, but it just it doesn't sound like it uses any sort of natural instrumentation.
It's basically like sort of got it's, I don't want to say EDM, but I mean, it's got that sort of feel to it where it's got sort of like this groove, but it's also very electronic.
Yes.
You know, the feeling that I got, have you guys ever seen The Fifth Element?
I have, yes.
I have not.
Well, there's an opera singer in that movie. There's an alien opera singer in that movie, and there's a scene where she does this like techno song where she sings opera over it, and because she's an alien, like the octaves kind of are like completely not natural. I kind of felt like if she was a character, then she was the one who did the soundtrack for this game, if that makes sense, because it does have that. It's an alien feel, and the voice of the opera singer does have these weird moments, partially because it's, I guess, going through a MIDI or whatever it is, but it also fits because she's not, because she's this anomaly and she's this weird alien-like creature, so she's got this weird, crazy, warbly voice. Does that make sense?
Well, it actually does make sense. I mean, Yoko Shimomura, this is like one of her more original soundtracks because unlike Kingdom Hearts, where she's got a lot of Disney music to play with and Final Fantasy music to play with, this is entirely original music, and she does use a lot of techno and electronica in the game.
Yeah.
And on the official soundtrack, you get, actual words instead of MIDI. There's a... But, the themes of Aya and Eve are two very different themes, but, there's a lot of piano and orchestration in there as well. So, I think the techno and electronica elements of the soundtrack give the game sort of a... It almost sounds like you're in a factory, almost. It's clinical.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sort of reminded of the Magitech facility in Final Fantasy VI.
Yes.
So, it's it's a very well done score, and it's like the differences between Parasite Eve 1 and 2. 2 was not composed by her. It's like night and day.
That was obvious. Oh wow, was that obvious? I was like, what happened to the music?
Yeah, I was like,
Like
hey.
one of the biggest parts of the game. But and the fact that because she's an opera singer, also our main antagonist is an opera singer, that plays so much into the game, and I think that's so cool. Is that every time that her presence is near, it's almost like every time you're about to find her again, you start hearing that voice.
And something's gonna get caught on fire.
Yes.
That is true.
But I mean, given that, Eve emerged from the body of an opera singer, yes, it makes perfect sense that, whenever you hear, the MIDI opera, that she's nearby.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very nice touch, so. Oh, I think that's gonna close the book on Parasite Eve, unless you two have anything else you want to say about it.
Nope, I think I'm good.
I think so. I think it's an awesome game. What more can I say?
It's a great game, and Parasite Eve 2, which we won't go into. It's I really, they made Parasite Eve 2 more action based and far less RPG based, and As I say to people, I said, first game, amazing. Second game, not bad. Pretty good. Third birthday, run.
Yeah.
Just run. So. But I think that is going to do it for us. So yeah, 20 years later, and the game still holds up remarkably well. It definitely holds up remarkably well. So. And, again, read the novel if you haven't. I mean, the first game is a sequel to the novel. So, if you want to better understand what the hell's going on, get your 10th grade bio on and get the book. So, if any of you out there on the wide world of the internet have any questions, comments, thoughts on Parasite Eve and want to share it with us, or any other episode, get a hold of us. Facebook, Twitter, our website, dlcpodcast.com. Click the feedback button. Give us, feedback, ideas for episodes, future episodes, whatever you like. It's all there. dlcpodcast.com, and every single episode can be found there, as well as iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, and Google Play Music. So, we survived. We are still corporeal. And I think I think we should get going before one of us spontaneously combusts.
Yeah.
So
why are my eyes glowing right now?
Oh shit!
It's the cat. Run!
Damn it!
He is sleeping right next to me. You're not going to transform, right, buddy? No, you're not.
What? And John comes in. Why does it smell like burning fur in here?
No, we're cool. My cat's a black mage. We'll be safe.
It will be good. It's named Vivi. Yeah, I mean,
yes.
Absolutely. So, all right. All that remains for me to do is to thank Ryan and Shanna for being on this episode with me. Come back. Don't just let this be your one token appearance for season 8 and have done with it.
What else. Yeah, I'll see what else is coming around and if I can make any of those.
I'm gonna try.
And that's all we can do. So on that note, I am Brian. Have a good one, everybody.